My friend's idiotic father intentionally gives me food poisoning, completely ignoring the fact that if I eat certain foods, I'm gonna have a negative reaction, as he claimed I was just a picky eater instead of me actually having a problem with it, resulting in one of the weirdest and most toxic situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's what happened. Okay, I will start by saying this happened when I was 16 years old. Now, I cannot eat red meat, pork, fish, or melons, and this has nothing to do with religion, but really, I get a bad stomach ache from eating those, and with meat, I will just start throwing up violently pretty much straight away. Now, everyone in my family and friend circle knows about this, as that's something that's been happening since I was a toddler. But on that note, I am fine with bird meat and seafood. Now, I have a friend who comes from a very wealthy family, and for the sake of the story, we'll call her Anna, even though that's definitely not her real name. We were celebrating her 15th birthday, and because of this, her dad was having a barbecue over at his new house. Bear in mind, I've known Anna and her family ever since Anna was like 9 years old, and when she was 14, she was practically living with me and my family, as we went to the same school and we were into the same hobbies. Plus, her family would also come around for barbecues every other weekend with my family, so they are perfectly aware of what I can and cannot eat. Now, their new house is about an hour-and-a-half drive from my parents' house, as it is located out of the city and it's by the lake. Before the barbecue started, Anna's dad showed the house as he helped to build it, and he was really proud of the golden throne he has in one of the bathrooms. And yes, this is a toilet that is stylized as a golden throne, and I'm not really sure if it was actual gold or not. I mean, I was 16 at the time and I had no idea of the difference. He has specified how we shouldn't use it or play with it, as it costs a lot of money and it is basically his toy. The throne is downstairs and is in the closet bathroom to the outside. There is another one, but it is significantly further away, and you have to go through some other rooms just to get to it. Now, as we were all underage, he was the one cooking the meat for the barbecue. He then put some white meat in front of my plate, which I assume was chicken, since I've only tried pork as a toddler and never had it after my reaction to it, so I have no idea how it tastes or how it looks. But upon tasting it, I did mention that it tasted weird and that the texture was really weird, but I was assuming that it was just chicken or something like that. Halfway through, my stomach starts to hurt like crazy, and I can finally click that something is wrong, as it normally wouldn't react this way to chicken. At the same time, noticing my reaction, the father finally admits that it was pork. I then get up and I start running through the doors as I feel like I'm about to throw up, and of course, I end up in the bathroom with the throne, where I continue to be violently sick. My friend then runs after me, followed by her dad, and her dad is clearly not happy about me destroying his throne, so he's literally starting to tell me off in the process. Now, I of course don't hear him as I'm still really sick. My friend then has a full-on go at her dad, saying that he should not have fed me pork, but her dad tries to brush it off, saying that he thought that I was just being picky, as that's what Anna told him. I then managed to say that I want my parents to pick me up, as my stomach hurts, all before getting into another passionate hug with a golden throne. It took my parents about an hour to get to me, and this entire time I was occupying the bathroom. My mother was furious and was in full-on attack mode on my friend's dad, calling him all sorts of names and saying how dangerous it is, as I might end up in the hospital and will have a few miserable days ahead of me. Now, the dad was trying to say I am fine now, but just before getting into the car, I felt another wave coming, and since I was not expecting it, I threw up all over this guy. My mom laughed, but also turned to Anna and said that she won't feel comfortable with letting me stay with her, or even celebrating anything with Anna's dad around due to what happened, and she also didn't think that I would want to once I'm older. Well, this definitely made Anna upset, as it was her birthday, and so she ended up having a go at her dad as well. Now, I haven't been around their place ever since then, but I did spend a few days in bed with stomach pain and had a doctor's visit just to make sure I'm not totally messed up, with Anna's dad footing the bill for the entire thing. Well, eventually, me and Anna ended up falling apart a few years after this, as she started to feel I was responsible for ruining her birthday, and even tried to plot some pointless revenge schemes, which was truly incredibly crazy. Okay, I gotta be honest with you, this is so weird all over the place. Not only is your friend a complete idiot for being like, "You ruined my birthday on purpose by throwing up all over the place, you know, after my dad intentionally gave you food poisoning," which, by the way, that's exactly what happened in case anyone's wondering, but also, what in the world is up with this dad? Did he really try to excuse this away by being like, "Oh, you're just being picky, you're not actually like gonna have problems with this"? Because that is crazy. Like, the second anyone says, "Hey, I'm allergic to this," or even implying like, "Hey, I can't eat meat," or "I can't eat like melons," or whatever it is this original poster can't eat, like the second I hear that, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, okay, we're never gonna get that near you. I'm gonna cook things separately and make sure I don't like cross-contaminate, and basically do everything I can to make sure they don't have some kind of reaction." What you don't do is what the dad did and be like, "Oh, you're just being picky, don't worry about it, you'll be fine." But I have to say, the weirdest thing in this story is the fact that this guy has a golden toilet. Like, that's basically what this is. And I honestly have never heard of anybody having a golden toilet and being like, "Oh, don't touch this, this is my toy." Like, dude, what are you talking about? Pokemon cards or a Nintendo Switch, that's a toy, not a toilet that you sit on that you painted gold. Like, dude, that is so weird. So there's already like so many red flags in my opinion that it's honestly hard to miss. But on top of that, the fact that anybody in this story is trying to be like, this is your fault, like that's crazy and that just doesn't make any sense. So honestly, if Anna wants to try and do like some weird revenge scheme, then seriously, good riddance. Because this lady is crazy if she thinks this is your fault in any way, shape, or form. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen literally tries to subpoena me and my husband to court so that we could testify in her frivolous lawsuit, forcing me to go to extreme measures just to show them that no, I'm not willing to help them out with their stupid lawsuit. Here's what happened. To start things off, my husband and I own and operate a small contracting business for drainage work, and the estimates we give clients are always free. We do not have employees and we do all the work ourselves. And when customers call us, this is all information that we give them. Well, earlier this spring, a woman called us who had been referred to us by an acquaintance of ours. She was having some drainage issues that she thought was caused by a neighbor installing a concrete parking area, and we told her we'd be happy to come and take a look and give her an estimate. So we showed up and we spent a lot of time walking around, measuring and planning things out. All the while, she was railing on her neighbors and talking nonstop about this lawsuit that she'd filed against him. She told us her attorney had advised her to get some written quotes on how much it would cost to solve her drainage problems, and I thought to myself, okay, fine. We always provide written quotes on our letterhead. And just as a note, I was limping heavily, having recently broken some bones in my foot. In fact, I mentioned needing to sit down soon because of it, and she asked questions about it. And it's here that I told her I was scheduled for surgery on a certain date to have things fixed up. But anyways, I sent her the quote the next day. Over the next few days, she sent several emails for things that bordered on crazy, where she was basically asking me how much this or that would be. And even though it took me a lot of time and figuring for these extras, I happily obliged, as I always do. Well, fast forward 2 months and it was day 3 after my surgery, and we hadn't heard any more from her since the initial quote. We then got a notification in the mail that my husband needs to come to the post office and pick up a restricted letter from an attorney. He had to take time out from doing absolutely everything around the house and in our business, as I was completely non-weight bearing at this point, just to go pick up that stupid letter. And wouldn't you know it, it was a subpoena and a check for $35. Rather than call and ask us if we would testify about the drainage problems, she had her attorney subpoena us to court for 2 days. And the $35, by the way, was the state-mandated minimum compensation for 2 days in court plus mileage. Now, I was in pain and I was in no mood. I called her up and as politely as I could, I asked her what in the heck was going on. She said she didn't know her attorney was going to subpoena us, but I told her we would effectively have to close our business for 2 days just to honor this subpoena. I also told her that she had subpoenaed the wrong person anyways, since it was me who put the estimates together in the first place. I also said that I literally couldn't sit in court even if I wanted to, because I had to keep my foot elevated, and I couldn't even drive since it was my right foot. But all she said was that I would have to talk to her attorney. So I left a voicemail for the attorney and I sent an email explaining the situation. After a few days of not hearing from the attorney, I called this idiot Karen back and I told her she needs to intervene. But she literally tried to tell me, oh, I have no control over what my attorney does. But I said to her, you absolutely have control over what your attorney does. Afterwards, I sent another email to the attorney telling her that we had nothing to contribute. We had revoked the estimate, and even if we did have something to contribute, she had subpoenaed the wrong person, and I was physically unable to sit in court for 2 days. Furthermore, asking to close our business and sit in court for 2 days for $35 would be a financial burden. Well, the attorney responded to my email a week later, a few days before the court date, and actually asked when a good time would be to meet with me to go over what I would say in court. It wasn't my proudest moment when I responded, because I said to them, do you have some kind of reading comprehension problem? Well, needless to say, she finally released the subpoena after I told her that she really didn't want the jury to hear what I had to say about the ridiculous lawsuit. Also, the neighbor had a counterclaim for defamation, and her client wouldn't shut up about all the nefarious doings of her neighbor while we were there looking at her property. I told her straight up, if opposing counsel asked, I absolutely would be honest about that. Well, out of curiosity, I looked at the court records after the trial date had passed, and of course she had lost her case. And it also made me incredibly happy and also literally smile when I saw that her neighbor had won the counterclaim for defamation. Okay, this is really funny to me because I love the fact that this lady was like, oh yeah, I can't do anything about this. I have no control over my attorney. Sorry about that. You gotta handle this. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? You absolutely can handle this. The Karen of the story was like out of her mind, dude. Like, what's going on right now? And you know they don't have their ducks in a row when they literally subpoena the wrong person. Like, dude, how do you get these two mixed up? But the funniest part for me is the fact that you literally said, hey, I will tell the truth if you put me on the stand. And trust me, that truth is not gonna look good for your client. Like, I'm so glad you put your foot down because these people really needed to hear that you were not gonna comply. Because their lawsuit was frivolous and they literally had no chance of ever winning this. My mom literally tanked my credit after she had 27 late payments on a car I co-signed with her. And so now I'm choosing to go no contact and I'm trying to navigate this really weird situation. Here's what's going on. So I never thought I'd be here, but I've decided to go completely no contact with my mom. And I really need help to try and figure out exactly what's going on. Before all of this went down, I had excellent credit. My mom wanted a new car, but couldn't get approved without a $5,000 down payment because her credit was already wrecked. Now, when I found out about this, I offered to co-sign. Not because she asked me, mind you, but because I thought I was helping. The payment was even lower than what she had been paying on her old car, so I thought it would be manageable. Fast forward, and when I finally checked my credit report, I saw that 27 out of the 36 payments were just late. I mean, she never even told me that she stopped paying. The loan balance was about $37,000 on a car that originally cost about $40,000, but by then it was only worth about $15,000. I also paid $3,600 for a repair that she never acknowledged or even paid back. And yeah, this wrecked my credit so badly that I had no choice but to file for bankruptcy. And that's literally going to be on my record until I'm 46 years old, all for a car that I've never even driven. When I confronted her about it, she didn't take responsibility, not even an apology. Instead, she was sarcastic, she was deflecting, and was somehow making it about how I was throwing it in her face. Recently, I told her I needed room in my budget to buy a car for myself so I could get to work. Well, she refused, even though she's in a better financial position and has assets that she could use. She talks about building generational wealth and breaking curses, but her actions have done the exact opposite for me. I was rebuilding my life and she took that from me, and the emotional damage is just as bad as the financial mess that I'm in. So you know what? I'm just cutting all contact. I'm removing her from my phone plan, I'm changing her number, I'm blocking her everywhere, and I'm telling family not to pass messages between us. And honestly, right now, I'm trying to figure out how to do this because I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, good for you for doing this because this sounds like a nightmare. Dude, 27 late payments is not an accident. At that point, this is literally just a choice. Like, she chose to do that even though she knew you were co-signing on the car. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? I think I would lose my mind if I was in your shoes. There's no way I would ever take that sitting down. So hopefully this works out for you. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, but also I hope you find peace because what your mom's putting you through is not fair. My entitled loser ex suddenly dumps me out of nowhere just so he could get back with his ex-girlfriend. But thankfully, karma was on my side as I got the chance to get some petty revenge that I'm sure he will not forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. A couple years ago, I was dating this guy that was really a good partner until suddenly he wasn't. Money management wasn't his strong suit, and for just about the last 6 dates that we had, he kept coming up short when the bill came, so I would have to cover it. On our last date, he says to me, "If you will buy again tonight, when my check hits next week, I'll take you to a super nice dinner." So I thought to myself, okay, sure, fine, let's do that, I guess. After dinner, we grab ice cream and we stop at his favorite store, Joann's. And for reference, he's giddy about picking out fabric for a sewing project. We wander for an hour until he finds the one and he says to me, "I'll have to come back and get it next week when I get paid." Well, 2 days later, he FaceTimes me. He drops the news that he's getting back with his ex, he sprinkles in some hurtful comments, and then he just hangs up. So I guess that super nice dinner the next week definitely wasn't gonna happen. And it was at this point I decided to get some petty revenge. The next day I walk into Joann's Fabrics and I find every bolt of the fabric he spent an hour picking out. You know, the stuff that he would spend hundreds of dollars on, because I decided to donate all of it to a local seamstress. I then blocked his number and honestly I haven't heard from him since, and that's probably for the best. Okay, I love everything about this because this guy is a complete loser. Like, this guy's going on 6 dates already and he can't cover any of it because he's like, "Oh, I need to wait for my check to hit." But it's like, okay, but you clearly have money to buy fabric. Why can't you pay for a date every now and then? Like, what's going on right now? And I'm willing to bet this guy absolutely was talking to his ex long before he had this conversation with you. And you can bet he's probably gonna have the same situation with this ex as he's having with you. He's not gonna pay for anything. He's gonna be like, "Oh, can you cover me this time?" And it's gonna be this weird cycle where I wouldn't be surprised if he went right back to you in some kind of way. So yeah, I love the fact that you took his fabric that he was so desperate to pick out and you donated it to this local seamstress literally out of spite. Like, I love that, and that is incredible. incredibly petty because this guy definitely deserves it. My cousin's idiotic boyfriend quite literally opens up a $400 bottle of scotch that was a gift to my great-grandma. And when I demanded that they replace it, they said to me that they couldn't afford it, and then they ran away from the party, putting me in a situation that honestly was incredibly unfair. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I brought a few bottles of scotch to my great-grandma's 90th birthday party. I had 2 for everyone to share and 1 special one just for her. And for reference, my grandma loves scotch. One of my cousins brought her new boyfriend to the party, and he was going to town on the scotch. I saw him fill like more than half a solo cup of scotch 2 times. Now, I didn't want to be a Karen, but not even all the family had arrived yet to have some. And the family that was there were annoyed that the first bottle was almost gone and they barely got any. I wasn't too familiar with my cousin's boyfriend, so I asked if she could see if he would slow down, and she agreed. Later into the party, a ton more family had arrived by now, and the second bottle of scotch had been opened, which honestly was completely fine. The real problem was when I saw my cousin's boyfriend pouring from an 18-year-old bottle of scotch that I got only for my great-grandma and had put away in a cabinet after I'd showed it to her, you know, far away from all the other drinks. Well, needless to say, I was pissed and I confronted him about it, and his response was to say that he didn't want to dog the other bottle. I literally couldn't figure out why he went out of his way to open an entirely new bottle that was stored all the way away from all the other ones. And when I asked him about this, he said to me, "Well, how was I supposed to know?" My cousin then eventually intervened, and I said, "I think he should replace the bottle," to which she said that she would Venmo me $30. When I told her it's more than that and gave her the actual right price, she essentially told me that if I could spend that much on scotch in the first place, then I should just let it go because it was an honest mistake. And then after that, they just got their stuff and they left. And trust me, I wanted to go further with this, but instead I decided to pick my battle because I didn't want to fight at my great-grandma's party. Okay, holy crap, I would never let this go. Maybe I'm petty and I totally understand if I am, but dude, there's no way in the world I would ever let this go if I ever saw my cousin again. The original poster went on to say that no, the scotch was not $30, but instead it was $400, which essentially adds so much more context to this because that is crazy in my opinion. This was an exclusive gift for their family member, and this guy literally went out of his way to find it and pop it open. Like, the cousin is literally enabling this alcoholic boyfriend while also refusing to take responsibility. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So yeah, your cousin absolutely owes you a replacement bottle because this is not fair for you and you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for getting a dog and their owner removed from a fast food restaurant after her dog literally starts shedding hair all over my food and all over the table I was eating at? Because while she was getting removed, this Karen literally freaked out on me, cussing at me and calling me every name under the sun, all because of her choice to come into this restaurant with her dog. Because right now, I kind of feel guilty and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was having lunch today and a woman walks up with a 100-pound long-haired dog that I believe was a Tibetan Mastiff. And no, for the record, this was not a service dog. She then bypassed the counter and chose to sit right at a table next to me while the person with her, who I can assume is her partner, ordered their food. Now, I'm pretty sure she did that to avoid them seeing her because this place has a strict no dogs inside allowed policy. Well, I had just gotten my food and left it on the table to refill my drink. Upon returning, I noticed her dog's hair floating on not only my table, but also one got on my fries. I then politely said to her, "Hey there, I'm a dog person myself, but your dog is shedding onto my table and my food, and I'd really appreciate it if you sit him outside or at least move to a different section." Well, when I said that, she immediately became defensive, saying that she was a paying customer and if I didn't like it, then I could move. We then went back and forth for a few minutes before I finally gave up trying to be rational and I alerted a worker to the situation. She was then promptly asked to leave, but not before calling me every name in the book and accusing me of hating animals. Now, mind you, my own dog was in my car and the AC was on while I ate for a quick 10 minutes. I told a few friends about what had happened, and they're actually mixed on whether I should have just switched tables instead of causing a scene like some of them described. Now, I'm sorry, but having a long-haired dog shedding hair around food is incredibly unsanitary, which is why the rules exist to begin with. I didn't feel this to be an unreasonable request. So seriously, am I the jerk for getting this lady removed from the restaurant? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, I hate this so much. This is so annoying. This lady knew exactly what she was doing, and that is so frustrating to me. She knew this was going to be a problem, like that's why she hid in the back. back. Like, why else would she be back there if not to try and hide from the staff? She knew she was gonna get kicked out if they saw it. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Like, look at the way she reacted to this whole thing. She became defensive and started blaming you for something that she did. Like, she tried to say that you hate animals, but it's like, dude, you literally brought your dog with you, and that dog's literally sitting in the car with air conditioning on, just vibing for the next 10 minutes, meaning that there's no reason this lady couldn't have done the same. And if you don't know, yeah, Tibetan Mastiffs are massive, and they can shed like crazy. So the way she's acting, in my opinion, is just super ignorant. There's no reason to cuss at someone just because they're complaining. They try to be rational, but you wanted to act crazy. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want your dog's hair in my food, dude. Like, that would have been a breaking point for me. I probably would have gone straight to management and been like, no, I want this replaced and I want them gone. Because messing with someone's food like that is like a cardinal sin, in my opinion. There's just no excuse. And the fact that this entitled Karen was acting like this, for me, is just crazy. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think this entire scenario is 100% this Karen's fault, because this literally could have been avoided if they just kept their dog in the car exactly the way that you did.
Am I the jerk? I used to blackmail girls when I was underage. This was 10 years ago. I was between 14 and 16 years old. This all started with the Facebook invitation for a chat application. Obviously a lot of creeps, but there were times when you could still find real girls on chat apps. I met a few girls and women, and that was around the time that I discovered the idea of sharing and receiving spicy photos on the internet. Many were grown women. Keep in mind I was underage. And that was a huge turn on for me. And I assume for a lot of guys my age, right? And I loved it. After a few weeks, I met this girl in her 20s asking for a video chat so we could have some fun. I loved that experience and I wanted more and more. Eventually, I stopped doing it with her and I started to find new girls that I could have virtual fun with. I found one, but when things got hot, she wanted to stop and left me hanging. I was frustrated and wanted to go all the way anyways. She kept refusing. And then I did something I still regret. Since she was using her first and last name in the call, it was a Skype call at the time, I easily found her Facebook profile, took a screenshot and told her that if she didn't do what I asked her, I will tell her relatives what we were doing. I would never have done this. It was just a bluff, but her pain and fear was not. I remember thinking, she is older than me, and yet she does what I say. I love this feeling of power. God damn it, I hate myself so deeply. I don't see any difference between me and an SAer. I remember that she said that if she ends herself, it will be my fault. And sometimes, years after the events, I still think about that. I know she didn't do it, and yet she could have, and this realization keeps me up at night. I did this sort of things a few times that year, and I still feel disgusted towards myself as a human being. I wish I could find them today and apologize, but I'm not sure if that would be sincere or just me trying to redeem myself and feeling better. Alright, this was a tough read. Because just hearing what this guy did was pretty gross. Even though he was young, it's still wrong. On the bright side, if there is one, it does seem like the OP understands how terrible he was, and he's ashamed of himself. I think everyone has done something they regret and they wish they could take back. So the only thing this OP can do is try to be a better person going forward, and hopefully use this knowledge to tell younger people that it's wrong. Also, let this be a lesson to why you should never use your real name on the internet, kids. Am I the jerk? I may have given a child a slight dent on their head when I was a kid. I am visiting my hometown after 15 or so years of being away. With that being said, I saw my teacher from kindergarten with her child. So this story was when I was in 3rd grade and I was going through a tough time in my life. My parents had divorced and my grandmother, dad's side, and grandfather, mom's side, passed. I was overall not in the right normal mental state I normally was back then. My grandparents' death landed about a week apart. My parents wanted to do their funeral as quick as possible to get the funeral burden out of the way. They planned the funerals 2 days apart, which made me very upset. And I was already upset from the divorce. My teacher was pregnant about 3 or 4 months along when this happened. She never knew that my grandparents passed. On this particular day, I punched her in the stomach. I had been late to school, my mom had just moved out, and it was in between the funeral days. We had an assignment that she had handed out to us, and it was something to do with asking our grandparents about something. I don't remember much. But anyways, I ran out of class crying and into the hallway. Along came my teacher coming to check on me, and she said something that made me very, very sad, so I punched her in the stomach as hard as I could. I ran into the classroom, grabbed my stuff, and ran into the office and told them to call my mom to get me. Surprisingly, they did. I got expelled from school, and my mom and I ended up moving across the country. I came back for a week to see my dad and saw my teacher and her child that had a slight dent on its head. I apologized for my actions as a child, and I still regret it to this day, but it's been keeping me up since I met her. Could I have done this? Could I be the reason why this kid has a dent on their head? Bro, can you imagine if this is true? Like if this third grader gave this baby a dent in their head? This might end up being a Kill Bill revenge story. That teacher on her deathbed is gonna be like, my child, I called you Denty because one day I wanted to reveal that that dent in your head isn't from something I did, but someone else did. Had it not been for them, you wouldn't be able to eat cereal out of your dented head and people wouldn't laugh at you. That's when Denty goes seeking his revenge? Tell me that's not totally a Tarantino movie waiting to happen. Am I the jerk? I used to steal from my store when I was a McDonald's manager. So I used to be a shift manager for McDonald's. I was in charge of counting the tills at closing, so I had easy access to money. I had the perfect scam. I had a group of teens working with me, and the way it worked was we memorized the prices of the most common orders. Back when the menu was simple and most people ordered the combos. We had a price chart and calculator besides the drive-thru register to help with the totals. We'd tell the customer their total, then ring up a small Coke or coffee to open the till, make change and leave the extra in the box. I would take out the exact amount of what the report said it should have, then keep the extra of what we scammed. We didn't mess with every order, so it just looked like a slow night. On a busy Saturday night, I could bring home around $400, sometimes even more, even after splitting it with my co-conspirators. I stole probably over $10,000 in a year back in the 90s. When I got sober, I had to go make amends to the owner. It sucked, but it was the right thing to do. I'm now a teacher and my students have no idea of the things I used to do. I'm glad this OP went and cleared their conscience. Not a lot of people would have the courage to do that, but at the same time, I kind of don't care because it's McDonald's and they have been screwing over their employees forever. Am I the jerk? I took substances with my friend the night she OD'd. Before I start, I just want to clarify that I loved this person very much and that I'm going to change their name for this. My friend Sally and I were hanging out at my boyfriend's house. She was due to go to rehab the next day. She had a fight with her parents and I told her she could cool off and hang with me. When she got to my boyfriend's house, Sally brought her boyfriend. I'll call him John. John brought a lot of substances and substance accessories. All I do is smoke. Over the course of the night though, I did snow with them. I'm not sure why I did that. Sally and John got into a big fight and I witnessed everything. During the night, Sally confessed to me that she had feelings for me and so did John. I was very surprised and taken aback. At the time, John had gave me and Sally a perk, and we both took it. I still have so much regret from this. After taking it, John confessed that it was something much stronger. I was really scared and really lit. Then they asked me a bunch of personal questions about my ex-life. At the end of the night, Sally and John got into another fight and Sally left. I wasn't in my right mind and I couldn't take care of her. I FaceTimed Sally to see if she was alright and she was. I saw her crushing something up, but didn't think much of it because she was an addict. When I hung up the phone, Sally was found dead in the morning and the cops were at my boyfriend's talking to us. It was extremely traumatic. I have so much guilt about doing substances with them. I feel like a terrible person. I really did love Sally so much. I was much younger than them and I haven't touched anything since. I needed to get this off my chest. I'm so sorry, Sally. This story does have an edit. I just want to clarify that this was the first time I ever did any substances like that and I've never done them again. So moral of the story, don't do substances, not even once. Second edit says, yes, I should have known the consequences of trying anything. Although I was lied to about what I was taking, I should have thought about what could have happened. I shouldn't have done anything at all. I understand I put myself in that position and that's why I'm so disappointed in myself because I'm smarter than that. This is just a sad story and another reminder of why you don't need to do substances. I'm glad this OP doesn't touch them anymore, but it's sad that it had to come at the expense of her friend's life. Hopefully that OP dropped that terrible boyfriend too. Am I the jerk? I made some guy fall into a bush when I was driving. When I was in high school, I was going about my way. Driving along the road, the light was green and I saw this old dude crossing. I guess he realized I wasn't stopping since I had the green light, so he sped up a bit nervously and fell on his face in a bush in a busy street. And I just rolled down the window and said, "Good one, dude," and didn't think much of it. Now years later, I'm starting to feel bad about it and I feel terrible, especially since I just laughed it off. That was the whole story, but the OP does respond to some comments and I want to talk about those here. The first comment says, pretty messed up behavior. Needless to say, I don't find it funny in the least. Sometimes people make mistakes, like this guy you describe as being some old dude. When you're enclosed in a couple tons of steel, you need to give pedestrians a break. The fact that he was a senior means he may have been confused and he didn't deserve what happened. Anyways, I'm glad you feel some remorse and it sounds like you wouldn't do the same thing now that you're older and wiser. Time goes fast and soon you will be some old dude too. Getting old is never easy. The OP says, I was in high school at the time. Someone responds to that by saying, no excuse, I hope you've grown up. Followed by the OP saying, not yet, and it wasn't even my fault, LOL. One last commenter says, technically you are at fault in this situation. I've been in the justice system for 12 years and the driver always has to yield to pedestrians. It's almost like common sense. Think of it this way. Would you rather slow down and look like a good Samaritan with an a-hole jaywalker? Or would you rather look like an a-hole who sped up when someone was crossing the street and almost killed someone's grandpa? Sadly, it looks like the OP is still a jerk here. I've read plenty of these confessions where people say they feel bad, but I often question if they just type that to get some sympathy from readers. This OP clearly doesn't care about what they did, and if they do, they don't see the error of their ways. Am I the jerk? I pulled the fire alarm at this random high school to get out of having to rap about being a leader. When I was in the 8th grade, me and another classmate of mine were picked to go on a leadership trip. 2 kids from each 8th grade class were picked. Other middle schools were included in this as well. There was a lot of 8th graders there. Anyways, the trip ended by being at a high school that was like 40 minutes away. When we got there was these 12th graders who greeted us. Each 12th grader had a list of 5 or 6 students that would be in their group. Once we were all separated, they brought us to empty classrooms where we were told that we were going to come up with a 2-minute song about being a leader and how to inspire our fellow youths. The 12th grader in charge of our group decided we were going to rap and be the best of all the performing groups. We came up with lyrics and rhymes, and I was mortified during the entire thing. I was so anxious and terrified that I had to be a part of this group to perform in front of the entire 12th grade. When we had finished, each of us had 3 or 4 lines. Our rap was going to start with us putting all our hands in a circle and screaming, "Go, go, go!" Then we were to spin around to face all the seniors and dance and jump around with our microphones and rap about studying and being inspirational and crap. After we finished writing this rap, we were all called down to the gym. Our leaders got our sticker and we were the 10th of 12 groups to perform. Each group had went and I was clutching myself and humming to myself as the secondhand embarrassment washed over me as every group got up and I had to watch 50 other middle schoolers horribly sing songs while all the seniors laughed and recorded us. Our group was near the rear entrance to the gym and there was this fire alarm about 5 feet outside the door. I looked at it when we first walked down the hallway to the gym, and I thought for a second about how I wanted to pull this thing to get the hell out of there. I was thinking about how I wanted to die and how stupid and embarrassing this whole thing would be. I had no business even being picked to go to this thing. I was a C or D level student who failed like 70% of the tests I took that year. The ones I did pass, I barely did. B's were scarce and A's were like once in a blue moon. I was totally shocked when they would happen. I was this loner kid who was bullied a lot and always in the office. I absolutely 100% believe I was picked to go on this trip out of pity from my core teacher. I was so confused when I was picked to go on this trip. So was this kid in my class who screamed at my teacher about how I didn't deserve to go on this trip and how my name was always written on the board because I failed so many tests. I was standing at the back of the group while the 9th group performed. I slowly walked backwards. I put my hands on the alarm, closed my eyes and pulled it, and immediately jumped forward and pretended to be shocked as everyone else. We then had to exit out of the gym through the main doors. By the time everything was cleared, our trip was over and we had to leave. My 12th grade group leader was pissed, and so was everyone else in my group. I was never asked if I pulled it or accused. I was so happy to get the hell out of there. This was around 2010 or 2011. This confession seems straight out of a cringy teen movie, but I have so much respect for this kid because in the age of cell phones, doing stuff like this is way different than when I did it as a kid. I never had to worry about my cringe being posted to the internet. Also, screw that kid that screamed at the teacher for not getting picked. I hope he got wedgied at some point. Am I the jerk? 7-year-old me scammed my mom out of $85 USD and she still doesn't know. Just what the title says. If you count what my brother scammed out of her, it was a total between both of us of $190. For our entire existence up to that point, we had got a $5 a week allowance. Then our friend's parents devised this graph thingy where on one side it had all the days of the week and on the other side it had various chores and how much each of them was worth. Because of this, our friends earned way more allowance and the greedy 7-year-old me was jealous. So I told my brother and we begged our parents to use the same graph. They agreed, so we used that for a few weeks, and all was well. I always did the same thing every week, so I had money I could rely on, and my brother picked up on it and did the same. Eventually, my parents wanted a break from us, and they went on a 2-week vacation. During this time, our grandpa babysat us, so he would mark off the chores we did over the 2 weeks. But he had this weird way of marking things off the graph. Instead of putting a check mark on the chores we did, he would put an X over the ones we didn't do and left the things we did do blank. When our parents got back, they went over the sheet and assumed that all the stuff that was X'd was the stuff we did do. So for each week, we both got $42.50. We watched them do the math and neither of us dared correct them. We both wanted a payday. To this day, we have told no one. This OP must still be young. I was expecting something a bit more juicy to come from this story. I was thinking that maybe they found this secret stash of cash while they were doing chores and stole some of the money, but it was just their parents misunderstanding their graph. Lame. A Karen indirectly tells me I'm racist and threatens to call the company on me instead of my supervisor. I'm a ride operator for an amusement park. I work in an area where I operate go-karts and one of the positions is taking payments from guests. This is a new position that they added for the ride operator because usually it's supposed to merchandise people to the cash register. But there was issues with them as they wouldn't check kids' heights properly. So now the ride operators have to have cash registers for the go-kart rides. These are the rules that I have to go by as a cash register. If you're 58 inches, you have to be a driver. If you are between 40 and 58 inches, you can only be a passenger, and the driver has to be 18 years old with a valid driver's license. Anyone under 40 inches cannot ride. Understand that there are rules like this because height matters when you drive go-karts, or how cramped it is when you ride the double-seated go-karts with the passenger. I deal with Karens all the time, but this Karen was racist to me. During a Sunday afternoon, I was working as a cash register where I took in payments from guests once I knew they passed the safety rules. Then there was this huge black family that came in. Here's the interaction. Hi, I would like to buy 3 drivers and 2 passengers. Who are your drivers and passengers? Those are the 2 drivers. Points at one oldest daughter and another family member. And these are the 2 passengers, a son and daughter. Can I see the kids' heights then? They need to stand behind the sign. The mom gets defensive knowing that one of her kids is too short even though I haven't checked them yet. Hey, you let this little Asian kid in. Why are you not allowing this child to be a passenger? I told her, let's see the 3 kids' heights first. I checked the heights. The son is tall enough to be a driver instead. Daughter is tall enough to be a driver too. And her youngest daughter is too short to be a passenger. The issue is that the youngest daughter wasn't standing behind the height sign, which made my job difficult. And I had to tell them that I have to check her back against the sign until I can see that it is clear enough that she's not able to ride. So I tell the mom, okay, she is the only one that cannot ride. Then the mom tells me, why are you making exceptions to the rules, says my name, when you let that little Asian kid in? You can't make exceptions for my daughter to go on the ride? She literally made this up because I had barely got back from lunch. Also, massive red flags that she said Asian, which means that she's trying to say that I'm being prejudiced and now discriminating. I tell the mom the issue is that she's too short. It wouldn't be safe for her to ride due to the restraints. Well, that small Asian kid you allowed to go on the ride was safe. She continues to ramble about how crappy of a job I'm doing. I end up telling her, let me get my supervisor over. Would you like that? She ends up saying, no, get me the manager here. She yells this at me. I just say, okay. I get the supervisor and another supervisor. Supervisor 1 checks the daughter's heights. Yeah, she is not tall enough to be a passenger. The mom says, well, my name, here allowed a little Asian kid to be a passenger. You should get her fired. My supervisor did back me up here saying that I had just got here and there were other people working here before me. This is when the mom asked for corporate's number. My supervisor says, I do not know, but I am the supervisor who is leading the management. I am not going to fire her for doing the right thing. After the mom takes down notes in her phone that I'm discriminating against her, she says, fine, I'll not let her ride. I'll just pay. And I finish her payments. Supervisor 2 sees the angry mom in line, so after hearing my story, decides to all let them know. Once she gets into the front of the line and other ride associates take in her tickets to see that she paid, can you make another payment for one more passenger? Other ride associate pulls me to make a payment even though she shouldn't have changed her mind in the spot. I would like her to be a passenger. Again, she forgot the rules already. I tell her I'm sorry, she cannot ride, she can only be a driver. The mom then says, you guys are ruining my day. I was supposed to have a fun time here, but instead long waits and my name preventing my little daughter to go on this ride. I tell her that I know, but we're just letting her know the rules. She tells me that I'm just yammering about the rules. She makes the chatty hand sign. Just be quiet about them. I already got the rules ingrained in my head because of you. She clearly didn't remember them. Supervisor 1 comes over and tries to talk down the Karen because she has an attitude. Hey, she is just letting you know the rules. However, we can proceed to make your payments. Okay, fine. The mom proceeds to tell the other ride associates that I'm doing my job all wrong and that I don't know how to measure the heights of kids. The ride associate tells me everything the mom says, and she says that she believes me because she knows I'm not doing anything wrong. And we both just agree that these type of guests are annoying. So that's how my day went. This specific guest really got to me. But the way she was targeting me and claiming that I allowed a small Asian kid to ride, despite the 2 supervisors backing me up, where she understands as she was nicer to them than she was to me. Just because I'm Asian, it doesn't mean that I should be seen as superior or inferior where I get bullied or targeted. What's also stupid is there's this big sign near the go-karts that's also near the walkway when you go into the entrance. A majority of guests carelessly do not read it, and it's fine, but this family clearly was already being racist to me due to my ethnicity. Who was the one being racist? It was actually her. Man, the plot twist really got me in the end. This whole time I was questioning why the mom kept bringing up the little Asian kid. Made me question what her problem was with Asians, but then it turns out that the OP was Asian, making this whole story become about favoritism in the eyes of this mother. Entitled people suck. Rules are rules, people. They are just in place at theme parks so people don't get hurt. My private photos ended up on the family computer 3 times. One day, years ago, my oldest brother came into my room to confront me. He sat down and started talking to me about internet safety and being careful. Apparently, a batch of photos I took of myself were uploaded to Google Photos, and Google Photos would send out thumbnailed notifications to the family computer upon unlocking. Completely embarrassed, I deleted all of it and fixed the Google Photo issue, or so I thought. Months later, my mother comes into my room and sits down with me. She tells me that she saw my private photos on the family computer screen and interrogates me on the matter. Once again, Google Photos saved my private photos and sent notifications to the family computer. My mother told me to fix that from happening, and so I did, or so I thought. Again, a few months later, I unlocked the family computer. Everyone else is in the living room adjacent to the computer room. And there they are, my privates for everyone to see. Luckily, I was the only one to witness this time. I disabled Google Photos entirely and have not shared my photo library since the final incident. I'm assuming the OP's age here, especially since they say this was years ago. But man, this story has to be hella embarrassing for the family to see all that. I would be mortified if something like that ever happened to me. The story was funny. Am I the jerk? I broke thousands of dollars of school calculators with my best friend. I'm 19 now. I know this was horrible and I wish I could go back and change it. When I was 12, my best friend and I would take school calculators, usually around $100 a piece, and destroy them. Usually we would put this screen under our chairs and stomp the chairs as hard as we could until the calculator was unusable. We found this bookshelf that was screwed into the wall that had about 1.5 inches of empty space behind it. After breaking one, we would throw it behind the bookshelf and it would never be seen again. We probably broke somewhere around 40 of them. My teacher had a suspicion that someone was stealing and selling them, but in reality, we were just breaking them. We would also shove anything we could into electric pencil sharpeners so they would break. We would find books and rip them in half when nobody was looking. We would pull screws out of chairs so that when people sat on them, they would break. We'd also fill drains in the science lab with pencils and garbage to clog the drains. I know we did a lot more, but I can't even think about all the stuff we did. We never once got caught. What's worse is all the teachers saw us as star students and loved us. They never knew the torment we were behind. Something seemed to give us this adrenaline rush when we did it. It seemed so funny at the time, and the memories are hilarious when I talk about them with my friend. Did anyone else go through a phase of where breaking things seemed like so much fun? I can't say that I went through this phase, and I've been reading a lot of confessions of star students doing terrible things lately. It's always the good ones you have to be worried about. Anyways, do you think this OP is a jerk? Am I the jerk? From 2017 to 2021, I was spying on men in public bathrooms. So I'm a 24-year-old bi-gender individual. I've recently done a lot of shadow work and healing work on my distortions, which have led me to a lot of karmic influences in my life, I believe. It started in college. I had just recently lost my virginity and had a lot of repressed X energy that occurred because of early childhood micro-traumas. As I recount this, I would like to make it clear I'm not excusing my actions. I've done a lot of work to forgive myself for violating people like that. I have also started reaching out to those involved that I can get in contact with to actually start applying my healing to my life. Not exactly sure how it begun, just started going into the bathrooms, into showers, and just seeing what I could. Not sure how insequential the number of guys it is. It wasn't very many, not lessening the wrongdoing in any way. That happened till late in my freshman year, mid-2017. Then stopped due to housing location changes, till late 2018, until I moved apartments. After that, there wasn't another incident until 2021, when I started my most recent job, only recently ending in early December. So now we've reached the present moment, and I am committed to telling the truth to those who weren't just passing strangers, but had an impact on my life, no matter how small or big. I have also taken away something from this. It gives me empathy for people who are acting unconsciously due to lingering trauma, though I can only speak on my realm of consciousness. Thank you for your time. The only thing I got from this story was the knowledge of having to look up the term by gender. I've never heard that term before. The more you know. Also, I'm glad the OP did clarify that their previous traumas don't excuse their actions. I often feel like some people lean into their traumas to get forgiveness. I'm glad the OP is self-aware here. Am I the jerk? I used up my money meant for tuition and now I gotta pay within the week. So I moved to a new country like a year ago and my mom gave me the tuition, 4,000 USD, for the first semester. At one point, I started using it just to hang out with my friends and buying clothes and stuff, thinking I would earn it back later when I got a part-time job. But that didn't work out as planned and now I gotta pay within the week or I get kicked out. My family came to visit me for 2 whole months and I couldn't bring myself to tell my mom. Now they're back home and I'm considering just sending her a message because I just can't say it while she's looking at me. I feel like crap all the time. I can't sleep at night because I feel so bad and worried about the whole situation I brought on myself. I don't know what I'm doing with my life and I'm so lost. I don't even want to go to college, honestly. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to vent. Thanks for reading if you have. There is a couple edits to this story. Thank you for the comments, everyone. I needed to hear that. I knew it was wrong, but at the moment, it was all I could do. It's no excuse, but I was so depressed and lonely, being alone in a new environment, needing to make new friends in order to forget about it, which involves going out to eat, drink, visiting places, etc. I have no excuse about the clothes. It's what I regret the most. The money is gone and I can't take it back, so I'll stop whining about it and come clean. I will video call my mom in a few hours when she's awake and tell her everything. I know she will scold me a bit and just send me the money, but I'll propose getting a student loan. I'm 100% sure she won't allow it, but I'll try since it's my fault. Anyways, thank you for the bitter words and advice. Don't worry, I'm applying for jobs too, and we'll keep making up for it. The second edit says, I already talked to my mom and she will loan me the money, but I have to pay her back. Please stop telling me, talk to her. Being young and in another country with a decent amount of money you don't normally have, yeah, I can see that bad combination. Hell, I have that problem sometimes when I'm not even in a different city or country. Anyways, it makes me happy that the OP came clean with what was bothering them. I know it's tough in the moment, but it's better to get it over with instead of letting it stress you out. Am I the jerk? I stole a championship banner from my high school. Okay, so February 2020. I was in grade 12 at the time and I played hockey my whole life, so naturally, I was on the girls' high school hockey team for all of 4 years of high school. This was the final tournament, so it was a pretty big one. We won the tournament, and in the dressing room after, my coach gave out a speech and thanked me for my time as it was the last game I would ever play with the school. Being in grade 12, I had my car and I drove there, so I did not require a bus ride home with the team. After the game ended and the coaches left the room, we all took pictures with the banner, and when everyone was done taking pictures, they gave it to me, and I just stuffed it in my hockey bag and left. I brought it home and hung it up in my room. My plan was to keep it until one of the coaches realized that they didn't have it. Well, long story short, in March, COVID hit, and I never returned back to school. The banner has been hanging in my room ever since. I asked my younger friends if the coaches ever noticed that they never had the banner, and I don't think they ever noticed. Now I just have a high school banner chilling in my room. The year before this, when I was in grade 11, we won another tournament and won the trophy. I brought the trophy home and had a party that night, and my friends and I took shots out of it. I returned the trophy that following Monday, but I wonder if I had never brought the trophy back if I could have just kept that too. I don't really have any thoughts on this story except that it's crazy to think that some students didn't have a senior year. Like the year that society deems as one of the biggest years of your life just got wiped away by a virus. Pretty crazy. Am I the jerk? I stole my friend's money for the school book fair in elementary. When I was in maybe grade 2, our school was doing a book fair. My parents rarely gave me money for it because they knew I would buy toys and not actual books, so they didn't even bother. During recess, me and a few friends went together and there were so many little toys that I wanted. One of my friends said that I could borrow some of her money as long as I paid her back. So I took them up on the offer and got a little puppy eraser. I literally took it with me everywhere. I was obsessed with it, but I was too scared to tell my parents that my friend let me borrow money for it. So I told them that she gave it to me. My friend asked me every day for the money because she was in trouble with her parents for lending out money, and I just kept saying I didn't have it. I'm pretty sure she transferred schools because I never heard from her, and I got away with the puppy eraser. Then I took my eraser to see the fireworks on July 4th and I lost it. That's when I felt the most guilty because all of that stress for nothing. I felt really bad that I spent her money and that all of it was pointless because I lost it anyways. This OP, straight to jail. You do not break the sacred rules of book fair funds. Every kid knows how special the book fair was. Everyone knew the envy that some kids had to suffer when they didn't have money. But this OP got offered money and then stabbed their friend in the back by not repaying them, then lost the item? This is unforgivable and they should be thrown in jail right away. I got arrested for a DUI a few nights ago and I have no clue how to tell my alcoholic mother. To clarify, my mother is a very self-aware alcoholic who has been fighting this sickness for decades. She, a single mother, taught my sister and me that we should never drink, since our genetics make us extremely susceptible to becoming addicts. I'm a 23 female and have been hiding my alcoholic use from her for years, but I know she's had her suspicions. She's really nice and usually very understanding. I am just dreading dropping this huge bombshell on her. I was really successful academically in college and have been doing all sorts of goody two-shoes stuff for years, and getting arrested is just not something that often happens to people like me. Also, there's this really disgusting Facebook page in my county that posts the mugshots, names, and charges for people who get arrested. I have to tell her before that page posts my picture in a few days so she can learn it from me first. Also, I'm really worried about how everyone else I know will react to that post as well. Mistakes happen, fess up, and move on. Also, I don't condone drinking and driving at all. I almost got hit by a wasted driver a few years back. I got lucky and was able to swerve out of the way, but the wasted driver ran into somebody else behind me. Thankfully, everybody was okay. But going back to the OP story, how messed up is it that someone runs a Facebook page that posts everyone's mugshots? Like, how low do you need to be to do that? That's just kind of sad. Am I the jerk? I got caught stealing a BTS album. When I was 10, I acted out by stealing my friend's possessions. One time my therapist told me and my mom it was normal given the circumstances. Their coveted pencil case of new markers, a doll from their father, and then I stopped. But starting at age 15, I just had this undeniable urge to have. I want so much. I want to have everything I want. Craft supplies that I actually use, makeup for my new hobby, and now K-pop albums, etc. I want to be surrounded by beautiful and plentiful things. I just want stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and I can't control it because things make me happy. I mean, I can kind of control it, but eventually I just want it more than the stress of getting caught or the stress of how much it costs. I'm not a kleptomaniac. I actually use the things I take. And I guess it's not really a destructive cycle because most of the time I go for months, if not years in between. But between the pandemic and stress, I've been wanting more of the comforting stuff. So today I took a K-pop album and I got caught. I gave it back and I actually bought something and endured a short lecture from the manager. But now I'm super anxious. I've been Googling what could happen and I just have this pit in my stomach that makes me want to go poo. I don't think they will press charges because it was $20. They got it back and it was my first time at that store. So they won't have any footage of me. But oh my god, what if my mother finds out? I'm already the loser daughter. She will be so disappointed and I just can't. I already have a history of stealing. I'm trying to replay the convo in my head to gauge what the manager will do, but I had so much adrenaline that I can't remember much. I probably won't steal anything again because my knowledge has showed me exactly how dumb and lucky I've been, but oh my god, I don't know how to stop this insatiable monster inside of me that just wants pretty things and can't pay for it. Please help a former thief. Usually my coping mechanism is to avoid, but I was hoping spilling the truth would help. Man, this OP seems to have a real problem on their hands. This might be one of those times where getting caught red-handed might actually be the best thing for a person to go through. Hopefully this OP does stop their stealing ways. Am I the jerk? In kindergarten, I cracked a kid's skull and sent him to the hospital. It was the last day of kindergarten. Me and a couple of friends were building a castle and other random stuff with these big building blocks that were basically cut and sanded 2x4s. Well, we built this one huge monstrosity of a castle, and I thought it would be funny to completely destroy it with one of those 2x4s. I picked one up and slammed it down as hard as I could. I immediately bursted out laughing till I heard screaming from straight in front of me. As I looked up, my jaw dropped at the horror that I saw in front of me. I didn't hit the castle at all, but instead I hit my friend on the forehead. Blood was gushing everywhere, covering his face, clothes, blocks, and my hand. They rushed him to the hospital, and I sat there the rest of the day in shock, staring at my hands. I still think about it to this day 12 years later. Bruh. First of all, why would any school let kindergarteners have adult Jenga blocks? That is just asking for trouble. Also, I don't know why when I heard this kid say that his jaw dropped, I totally imagined a Looney Tunes cartoon jaw drop. Anyways, this story is very similar to something that happened to me as a kid. I remember playing hide and seek with my brother, and he ended up tripping and hitting his head on the side of a desk, which split open his forehead. I remember my mom screaming bloody murder, and my parents rushing him to the hospital. It was a pretty crazy experience as a kid. Karen hates the speed limit. I was driving through a neighborhood that had a posted speed limit of 25 because the streets were narrow and there had been a lot of accidents there lately. The cops regularly patrol and give tickets. Was coming home and took a shortcut through the neighborhood, noodling along at 27 or so since I didn't want to get a ticket. Karen and her friends zoom up from behind and start tailgating me. She started honking and wouldn't stop. I could see her and her gal pal complaining about it, and she just wouldn't let off the horn. It was really obnoxious. So instead of speeding up, I slowly slowed my speed to about 15 miles per hour. It made her insanely angry, and my heart filled with joy. We rolled up to a stop sign and I just sat there. After a bit, another car came up and I waved them on, and then another one. After a while, I just watched her losing her mind from behind me, waving her hands, screaming madly, just out of control angry. Finally, she backed up her car, stomped on the gas, and careened around me, running the stop sign and put a lead foot down, flying up the road. Unfortunately for her, she missed seeing the cop pulling up to the stop sign as she went through it, who immediately caught up with her and pulled her over. He popped her for running a stop sign speeding. At such a speed, the fine had to be double. Florida is notorious about that. When I drove past her, she was screaming at the cop, and her face was beet red with fury. We made eye contact, whereupon I kissed my hand and blew a kiss to her. Her face contorted with emotion, and I'm pretty sure I saw the top of her head pop open and a little man with a sign run away. I'll tell ya, I slept particularly well knowing that I righted some imbalance in the world. I will admit, it's nice when instant karma comes to town, but being a jerk to be a jerk is still being a jerk. So I can't praise the OP too much here, but tailgating is the worst, so this Karen got what she deserved. Am I the jerk? I knocked the girl out and broke her nose when I was 15 because she kicked me in the balls. At my school, this was a relatively common occurrence for girls to do this to guys over disagreements, words, or just for fun. And no, by words and disagreements, I do not mean her being bullied. Anyway, it was during recess. I was just minding my own business when this girl came by and kicked me in the balls from behind. I immediately fell to the floor, convulsing and coughing my balls up while sobbing and crying, while she and some other girls laughed at me. After what felt like an eternity, but must have been maybe 10 minutes, I could finally stand again, and while still crying tears of rage, I found her and punched her in the face, frankly, as hard as I could. She got knocked out and her nose broke. I ended up getting suspended, which was fine, since I had to stay in bed for 3 days with an ice pack on my tennis ball-sized swollen nuts. I woke up that night because I had to puke. I had a weird small fluid sac that had been getting bigger over the years on my left nut, now called a hydrocele, which often causes a very unpleasant feeling, which makes me think of this incident every damn time. But if I had surgery to get it removed, I'd risk becoming infertile. Screw girls that do this. Might be because I have some sort of complex from this event and various incidents like these. that I've witnessed and experienced. But it should be considered sexual violence in my eyes, because it's definitely intended to humiliate and violate boys as males. And girls who do this definitely get a kick, no pun intended, out of doing this by specifically exploiting his genitals and male weak spot. It's a psychological violation. It's sexual in the sense that it's directed at his sex and intended to violate him in regards to his sex. And in a sense that girls do this to draw some sort of gratification out of all of that in regards to their own sex. Violent castration / cutting off a guy's junk is on one level with SA in my eyes. I hate to use that word, but I get triggered every time scenes like this happen on the screen. All the more when girls and women laugh at them. I feel like a weirdo with issues for having such an extreme reaction to that, while everyone around me just doesn't care and finds it funny. Sorry that this turned into a rant. Let me know what you think. As a guy, this story made me wince. I mean, getting kicked in the balls is funny when it happens, sure, but in reality, like the OP stated, it can be really dangerous. This girl totally busted this guy's nut in the worst way possible, and that sucks for him. I don't condone him punching a woman, but at the same time, she legit caused this guy to have lifelong issues. So maybe karma decided that she needed to pay her debt ASAP. Moral of the story, don't play stupid games unless you want stupid prizes, people. I'm in love with someone I can't be with. I don't know if confessions is the right place to type this, but I need to get this off my chest somewhere. I met a girl through this game a while back. We have played and talked with each other a lot for the next 8 to 10 months. I never really saw her as a potential partner simply because we don't live close, and I'm not good with long distance. Then out of nowhere, she asked me if we could date seriously. I rejected her by simply saying I'm not good with long distance, and as I said, she doesn't feel like a partner to me. Now a few months later, a lot of my friends in my friend group are starting to get girlfriends, and that got me thinking, when am I gonna get a girl? And whenever I imagine having a girlfriend, she pops into my head. Our personalities match, she thinks I look good, and I think she looks good, and we simply are a perfect match. But the problem is, 1, she lives on the other side of the world, and I can't imagine myself getting a plane ticket to visit. I'm very awkward in person, so I don't think it will go well. And 2, even if everything goes perfect, I won't leave my friends and family to move to another country, and she won't leave her friends and family to move to another country. But whenever I imagine someone I can spend the rest of my life with, it's her. I can't imagine being with anyone else. What should I do? What do you do? Give it a shot! This OP seems to be swimming in the negative thought ocean instead of the positive one. Sure, long distance is rough, but you won't know if it's worth it until you meet the person in real life. Use the first meeting as a vacation and see how you get along. For all you know, she could be an amazing cook, her smile might brighten your day every morning, and hell, maybe she's even the queen of the Gok Gok 9000. You never know until you try. You got one life, don't waste it by swimming in the negative. I'm in love with someone from the past. Life moves fast. All of a sudden, the people you spend every day with, you're not spending every day with anymore. People start changing and being more selective with the type of people that they want to be around, and what they think they want to be around. I thought I was okay with not being around him. I was wrong. It has literally been years of me waking up and thinking about him on a daily basis. I have been thinking about this one man every morning I wake up for the last year and a half. I won't be over dramatic, but come on, this is kind of intense. Oh, and mind you, he's had a girlfriend for a while, but broke up with her. And little ol' me has been in 2 relationships since we got distant. I'm currently in one now that has been going for 3 years. Now, I don't know if we would have been the best for each other timing-wise in the past, but ooh-wee, that boy is fine like damn good wine. He's so hot. I literally have cried from frustration. I feel like a stalker. I can't stop thinking about him. Man, there's so much more. I don't know what I'm doing. I just need to get this off my chest. Thank you, Reddit. Peace. Man, someone is down bad. I couldn't tell, but it sounded like this OP was never with this fine wine of a man. Well, if you're a woman listening to this, consider this your sign to shoot your shot at a guy you like. Unless you want to end up like this person. Let's break the stereotype of men always having to make the first move. I'm 15 and my mental state is a wreck because my parents are getting a divorce. This just happened to me a few minutes ago, so I'm not sure about what to do about it. My 51 male dad is a conspiracy theorist, and it started with the fake moon landing and the flat earth stuff a few years ago. And this always made light arguments between them occur. My mom is a 49-year-old female. But there was never any big ones, and they all ended with something along the lines of, "This is stupid." Well, anyways, just a few minutes ago, the topic of sanctions in Russia came up, and a heated argument happens between him and my mom. with me in the crossfire. He goes on about how my mom's stories are bullcrap and how he's always right and vice versa from my mom to my dad. At the end of the argument, he says to me, "I hate your mom, I hate you, and I'm leaving." And he went up to his room after I went up to mine. We talked for a little and he said he doesn't actually mean it to me, but he can't stand the arguments. He's leaving for at least the night and said probably only gonna come back to grab some things. Every argument they've had destroys me, but this one really hit me deep, especially with some of my closest friends drifting, so I have no one to talk to about this. I've never really considered unaliving myself, but this night I've thought about it, although I probably won't. What should I do? Parents fighting is always hard. I don't think a parent leaving the house for a couple of days means divorce though. My parents fought like this when I was younger, but they are still happily married. It sounds like the dad is probably the issue here, and if you've ever argued with a conspiracy theorist before, you know that it's a losing battle because you can't change their mind. Sometimes people just aren't meant to be with each other though, sadly. This might be one of those cases. I hope this OP gets through this tough time because it sounds like they went to a dark place. Am I the jerk? Because my high school bully died and I'm happy about it. This chick I went to school with kinda made my life hell. Her and I were at one point very close. We even hooked up. But something changed and she ended up exposing pictures of me to the whole school. Last night she got hit by a wasted driver and died. And I can't help but smile a little bit every time I see someone post about it. Alright, this is kinda messed up, but it's also hilarious. It's hard to explain, but you don't know real hate until you feel it. The word gets tossed around a lot, but when you experience it for real, then you see why something horrible like this can make someone smile. My wife and I eat Karens for breakfast. This morning I dropped my kid off at school. I'm in the usual car lane waiting my turn. Car in front of me moves up and I pull up in the same spot to let my son out. Then Karen appears. Same Karen I faced off against before when my son was getting tested for COVID at school. She asked me to roll the window down, so I do. Karen, next time you need to pull up further. The car behind you almost hit me trying to get past you. I pulled up as far as I can go, otherwise I would block the pathway for the kids to be at the fence. Well, you're still blocking traffic, sir. She says this as two SUVs drive past us with no issue. Ma'am, there's plenty of room, so I'm not sure what you want here. Karen throws up her hands. I guess I shouldn't have said anything. I tell her, well, where are you when at the end of the day, the same mom in the black and green SUV blocked both lanes and let her kids on? It's not my job, sir. I work in the office. And I just leave with the, okay then, have a good one. My kid once again witnessed it all. Jess gets out and says, well, have a good one, Dad. I'm just gonna get out here. I get back home and I tell my wife all what happened. She decides to call the office because it's the same lady who harassed us last time and she wants to report it to the admins. She gets on the call and Karen just so happens to answer the call. My wife's recollection of the call basically goes like this. Hi, I wanted to talk to the administrator. A staff member just harassed my husband in the parking lot and we're not sure why. That was me. Oh, so then yeah, why did this happen? Oh, well, the car behind him pulled up too fast and almost hit me. So obviously I needed to say something. How is he responsible for that driver? Well, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said anything to him. Sounds like it. So I just wanted to report this. I'll pass it along. Admins are in meetings all week. Yeah, okay, thanks then. My wife described the initial tone as snappy and snarky, and then it came down to low and timid, almost like she realized how stupid she was. So now we wait till the next encounter. We're the Karen Slayer family. The story does have some edits. Thanks for the silver. Sorry there was no actual cannibalism in this story. For the few who say that this was lame or didn't happen, it's cool, that's just how Reddit works. For those who keep claiming that my wife and me are both Karens, then I guess all I can say is that that's your opinion and you can have it, but we just don't agree with it. This is a repeat issue with the staff member, and at some point, as a parent of a student of the school, you need to report the staff acting this way consistently. Make of that what you will. To those who said I wasted my time writing this, not sure why you think that. I have time during breaks, lunch, and after work, etc. And I can waste my time how I see fit. The only reason why I included all the edits that followed this post was because this family does kind of give off Karen vibes to me. It's one thing to speak back to a Karen, but this OP brought up another person that they have an issue with to throw in the Karen's face. Also, maybe it's just me, but with the rise of Karens in this world, these Karen slayers are becoming just as bad in my opinion. Because I feel like they just do it for clout. I don't know, what do you think? Is this OP right, or do they give you Karen vibes? Not meeting Karen's expectations. Had a Karen come into my store yesterday trying to get a product under a limited lifetime warranty exchanged, which needs to be done through the manufacturer. I explained how she could file the claim and offered to help her file it on my computer. She goes, "They said I could do that and have it shipped for $11 or come into your store and you'd replace it for $15. I go, "Who's they?" Because we don't have any replacements in stock. Even if we did, there's no way for me to change it to $15 for one. This item in question sold for around $60 and cannot be exchanged or discounted. It's even on her receipt that she didn't have with her, but I looked it up in the system. Well, if you like, I can help you file the claim. She's rolling her eyes at this point and she keeps telling me, well, last time they over and over. She tells me to go check in the back, and I go check, and nope, of course, we don't have it like I knew we wouldn't. She's convinced that if we do have one, she can still get her way. I was apparently too quick in looking for the item, and she questioned if I even looked hard enough. Well, the product she's looking for is a 4-year-old model, so we no longer carry that version she needs. She finally agrees to me helping her file a claim, and I told her she would receive an email for payment information. And she then goes, "I want a receipt printed out," which there was no receipt for this, as I didn't take a payment, and she needed to do that on her end. So after explaining that to her, she gathers all the things that she sprawled out onto the counter, huffing and puffing to the door and says, "Last time they took my payment directly," before walking off. I was so tempted to start recording her, but I knew that would only escalate things for her. I don't really have anything to add to this story. I'm just, working in retail sucks. And I don't miss those days. The thrift store Karen. First time posting, so I'll give you a bit of a backstory. I work for one of America's largest charity thrift store chains. We basically make money by selling people's donated items. I work in donations, so I get in contact with, let's say, some interesting people. Today I took a donation of 4 boxes of random knickknacks and glassware. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing special. Well, fast forward 10 minutes and the donor returns stating he donated a book by accident. At this point, the items are already being sorted through to see what we can sell versus recycle. So I ask for the book title, a phone number, and I'll contact them when I find the book. Then in the passenger seat, I hear a high-pitched shriek, screaming about how we need to give the book back this instant as they live 100 miles out of town. I go through the donations he gave me. There was no book. She storms into the building with her husband, screaming at all of us, telling us that it has to be here, etc. Eventually, the husband walks out after being told to shut up by his woman. 5 minutes later, she's still in our back room yelling at us. The husband walks in, tells her he found the book in the center console where she left it. She storms out, almost pushing me over, throwing a tantrum a 2-year-old would be proud of. The kicker, it was a Christian self-help book about treating others like you would want to be treated. Oh, Jesus. Coming from a very conservative state, this story is all too real. Karens reign supreme in religious circles, and they often believe that they are right because they are connected to God. Sadly, they only ever bring up God when they want to get their way and never live by his words. It's just sad. Karen yells at my mom for hitting her Porsche. Meet the cast. Me, obviously a 5'8" femme-looking teenager, my little sibling 11 years old, and my mom 5 foot, calm woman who deals with crazier people than Karen every week. Karen, a-hole, rich woman in her late 30s who owns a Porsche. This is the first Reddit post I've made in a while, so apologize if it's bad. Some quick backstory and where this takes place. My mom, my little sibling, and I were coming home from picking up my siblings up from tennis. We were at an intersection where a large semi-truck was passing by, so clearly my mom backs up to give the truck some space. The Karen, who is right behind my mom, decided to pull forward while my mom was backing up. So they bumped into each other. No crash or damage, just a few small scratches. My mom pulls over to the restaurant that's just next to it, turns off the car and gets out to inspect the damage. My little sibling was literally chanting as they got out, "Please be a nice person, please be a nice person." But their hopes were proven to be for nothing when a blonde woman with a Karen haircut gets out, only to instantly yell, "What the heck is wrong with you?" The Karen proceeds to rant about how my mom was the cause of it, screaming and swearing excessively. My sibling and I, who were still in the car, were just watching in shock. This had been our first experience with a Karen. My little sibling is kinda young, so we were very confused. I got out of the car, got my little sibling out, and told them to go inside the restaurant because they didn't need to hear the huge amount of swearing words. used in ways I haven't heard them used before. The Karen pulls out her phone and starts recording, yelling about what happened. And after the whole ordeal, she continues screaming, calling her husband and the police. I'm coming over to my mom, staying behind her though, because my mom can be a scary woman when she needs to be. But I'm just trying to be there for some sort of support for my mom. The Karen was continuously swearing loudly at my mom and yelling for her to give her my mom's insurance and her number and etc. I don't know much else of what happened because I went into the restaurant with my sibling because it was getting overwhelming for me. But from what I saw, she started fake crying when the police arrived, pointing at my mom and yelling something. I bought my little sister and I something to share and we ate it while making quiet judgment comments about the Karen. The officer didn't give either of us tickets and told us all to go home. Eventually the husband came, got the Karen, and the two left. My mom, little sibling, and I got in the car, went home, and just talked about what a weird experience that was. I don't really have any tolerance for people like this. I got into an accident once where this young girl did a U-turn without stopping right in front of me. It was either run into her or run into head-on traffic. I remember yelling inside my car, "What the F are you doing?" But the moment I stepped out of that car, I was calm and made sure the young woman was okay, and luckily a bystander had already called the police. I feel sorry for this Karen's husband. A wild Karen goes to the movies. Me and my 5 cousins, ages 19 to 16, went out for a small teens get-together at the mall cinema. We bought tickets for a movie and decided to watch it in the middle rows. Unbeknownst to us, we were in for a treat. There was only 5 seats per row, so I decided to sit separately from my cousins. I sat in front and there was only 3 people beside me, a mom, a dad, and a small kid. As the movie started, the kid would play on their iPad with loud music. This went on for a while since the father was asleep and the mother was busy with her phone. One of my cousins asked me to ask the mom if the kid could lower the music as it was distracting. The mom then said loudly that I should mind my own business and leave the kid alone. I returned back to my seat and just tried to enjoy the movie as best I could. A few minutes later, I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, the security guard came and asked the woman to either lower the device's volume down or leave. She then started screaming profanities and saying how the guard was sexist for some reason, and they were asked to leave. After the movie, Karen was waiting outside. Apparently, she thought I snitched on her and told the guard to kick them out. Me and my cousins defended ourselves since it wasn't our fault and we were minding our own business. The dad wasn't very helpful since he just stood there, arms crossed. They didn't even try to stop nor calm the mom down. Once again, the security guard saw us and with one of the staff members asked her to leave the premises. Apparently, other people kept complaining to the staff about the kid's loud device, and we just so happened to be blamed for it. Good thing is, we got free beverages for dealing with them and not being able to enjoy the movie as much. Still hope to get at least free tickets out of it for another movie, but I'm not going to be complaining about free drinks. Why go to the movies? You could sleep, have your kid on an iPad, and be on your phone at home. Kids can be bad enough at a movie theater, but then you're gonna give them an iPad too? Some people just aren't meant to be parents in my opinion. Karen refused to wear a mask because God told her not to. This story happened a couple months ago, but it's so ridiculous that I had to share it when I was just reminded of it. But anyways, I used to work for a popular coffee shop that rhymes with Schmim Schmortens. And this particular instance happened on my second to last day working there after handing in my 2 weeks notice. So this Karen comes in, I don't serve her, but my supervisor does, and the Karen isn't wearing a mask. This was before the restrictions were lifted. So my supervisor told her that she couldn't be served if she refused to wear a mask, but she still refused. So my supervisor grabbed a disposable mask and held it towards the Karen and told her that if she doesn't put it on, she will not be served. The Karen continues to refuse and goes on a long rant about how she doesn't wear masks because she spoke to God and God told her not to wear masks. And she was getting increasingly aggressive as she went on with her rant, and my supervisor actually started to get scared. So she just stood there as the woman kept talking. Eventually, the woman took the mask and put it on, only for the purpose of being served, I guess. Anyway, it was a hilarious story because while I've encountered many Karens while working in customer service, this one probably takes the cake for the most delusional one I've ever encountered. All I got from this whole encounter was that this Karen finds coffee more important than their God, because she disobeyed her Lord and Savior for some sweet flavor. Karen in the wild at a happy hour. Went with some coworkers to a brewery after work around 3:30 p.m. And most of the tables had little reservation signs for different larger parties coming in that night. Waitress says that the tables are available now, go ahead and sit. We snag a table that has a 6 p.m. reservation on it. At 5 p.m., Queen Karen of the Randy 6 p.m. party shows up. Yes, she 100% looked exactly like what your mind is currently picturing. And she comes over to inform us that the table is reserved and that we need to clear out immediately for her party. We politely say that we know about the reservation and that we will be gone in plenty of time that the table can get bussed for the party. She spends the next 5 minutes awkwardly hovering around the table, making passive-aggressive comments to her husband about how we're not leaving, complaining about how she reserved these spots. Again, at 6, not 5. And even invoking the magic word manager. About 5 minutes later, when we are getting ready to leave anyways, the waitress comes over and drops the check and says, "Whenever you're ready, there's no rush." That lady told me that I need to come give you your check and make you leave, but I told her that her reservation isn't until 6. Karen sat there staring daggers and pouting. We left at 5:55 because screw her. It's crazy to think it's been a hot minute since I've experienced something like this in the wild. Reservations exist for a reason. I can understand getting mad if your reservation is late, but not if it's early. Apparently, Karen has a problem with Red Panda movies. Pre-watch what you plan to let your kids watch from a fellow local mom. Parents beware. I don't usually do this because of the straight up ruthless and vicious hatred that I'm getting below, but here we go. Just a heads up to all parents out there, the Disney movie Turning Red is not for kids at all, especially not for families trying to keep their kids close to Jesus. Yes, I know Disney's movies don't instill Christian values, and I don't look to them to do so, but typically there are important and valuable life lessons being taught. You will find the complete opposite in this movie. It had the potential to be so cute, parents beware. Just a few things that stood out. The little girl talks about at age 13, you're your own person, an adult. You can do what you want, say what you want, etc. Her and her 3 friends talk so poorly about their parents and come up with a plan to sneak out and go to a boy band concert, which they end up doing. The girls sneak out to a co-ed party as well to give boys rides as a panda to raise money for the concert. One girl says her parents won't let her go because the band sounds like stripper music. This was a screenshot of a Karen's post and it kind of cuts off right there. But I think you could get the gist of what the Karen was all about. It's sad that Karens are usually connected to religion in some way. I'm not sure if this is because they feel entitled because they believe their God is right, or if they just suck as humans. That's not a slight at religion, by the way. Either way, it's probably best not to expect that a company whose main goal is to make money to be the moral compass for your kids. Am I the jerk? When I was in primary school, I broke a pair of glasses and blamed it on the problematic kid. When I was in year 2, there was this boy, let's call him Jay. Jay was a problematic kid and I was one of those smart kids. The teacher would always leave a spot next to me to place kids misbehaving because I didn't really talk and I kept to myself. The teacher would always believe me, so I guess I was a bit of a teacher's pet. Whenever he sat next to me, he would bully me and steal my stuff. Just generally annoying things. So it was approaching the end of the year and this kid was misbehaving. So the teacher places him next to me. My glasses screw was a bit loose and were getting old. So to get back at him, I snapped the glasses temples off. He looked at me shocked and confused and asked why I did that. I simply replied that I didn't do it. He did. I told the teacher he broke my glasses. The kid didn't need to get my glasses fixed since I had an extra pair at home. He got detention and that was it. I moved that year to a new school. I don't regret it. I went a full year sat next to him and he really annoyed me. And it made me upset as a kid being bullied in the playground. I do hope he's doing better today though. This story has me conflicted. On one hand, the bully does deserve it if he was picking on this kid for the whole year, but also it's the quiet kids that you gotta watch out for. Because to have the knowledge to scheme stuff up like this so they won't get in trouble, in my opinion, that's scarier than a bully. I was caught eating a stick of butter. This happened quite a few years ago when I was around 15 years old. It was a regular school day and I had just got home. I was starving and the rumbling in my stomach was enough to cause an earthquake. I hadn't eaten breakfast and the day was so long, so I made my way to the kitchen in search of some form of sustenance for me to sink my teeth into. Unfortunately, we didn't really have much to eat that day. After a few minutes of looking around the cabinets and opening and closing the fridge multiple times, I came to the conclusion that there was nothing for me to eat. At this point, the grumbling in my stomach had turned into that of almost roaring, and then I saw it. The only thing edible enough for me to call food. One stick of butter in the corner of the fridge that was left unopened. I didn't have any other options, so I reached in and took out the cold slab of cow's protein and stared at it. I didn't really know what I was going to use it for, and I didn't have any other ingredients in the house. The hunger at this point was unbearable, and so I just decided to have some of this salty fat. After the first bite, my teeth felt slick and chilled. Honestly, the taste was surprisingly enjoyable, and I just kept eating it. I didn't want to be seen by eating a stick of butter by anyone who had just came in, and I couldn't have had the wrapper in my bedroom because that would raise suspicion. So I just decided to hide under the kitchen table and ditch the evidence after my snack. After a few minutes of sitting under the table and scrolling down on my phone, I heard my mom come through the front door. As she was making her way down the hall, I was still with a mouthful of butter on the cold tiles of my kitchen floor. She walked in and set the groceries she had just bought on the countertop. I couldn't do anything but sit and wait for her to leave, so I just sat there not moving for what felt like eternities. A minute or two had passed, and then like a scene out of a bad horror movie, her feet started moving towards me. I immediately started to panic at the thought of being outed to the family as the butter lover I was, and I started to scarf down the few bites of the stick I had left. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish, and my mother bent down and lifted the tablecloth. She was met with the sight of me with a mouthful of butter and almost completely eaten stick in my hand, teeth marks and all. After a very awkward interaction, she just told me to throw it out and go wait for dinner. As you imagine, it wasn't a very good week for me in my house, or year for that matter. 12 years later, my family still continues to bring it up every time they butter toast. This story's tough. I think every family has that one story from childhood that your parents bring up every chance they get. Guess this is that story for this OP. Am I the jerk for leaving my partner of 4 years after finding out he was cheating? Almost every day, my boyfriend sends me money for lunch, gas, or something. I thought he was just really kind. Turns out that he was cheating, and giving me money made him feel less guilty, as though he didn't beg me to move across the country with him where I know no one. Once I found out, I wanted to immediately confront him, but I was scared of the outcome since the apartment was only in his name, and again, I don't know anyone here. Now I just save every dime of what he sends me to be able to pay for the $3,000 moving fees to go back home without hurting my own pocket too much. Breaking my heart, destroying my ability to trust, and scarring me off of men I can handle. But messing with my finances? Nah, never. The transport company is coming next Wednesday to take my car, and my plane tickets for me and my dog have been bought. Gonna keep up the happy act and do the usual cooking of dinner and scrubbing his back. And poof, on Wednesday, it'll be like I never met him. It's the only form of revenge that I can do that wouldn't haunt me. Good riddance. There is an edit to this story. A few of you asked for details. There's 7+ other women. Everything he told them was a lie. Name, age, height, city, occupation, all of it. The only common denominator was that he bought all of us the exact same lingerie set for his birthday in January, and specifically requested I hang it up in our closet where it's viewable. Forgiveness is not on the table. He'll be surprised, but I doubt he'll be hurt. The OP actually had a lengthy update to the story. The transport company came and picked up my car, sold whatever big furniture I bought for low prices, took his dog to the park and played with him a bit, got him a dog cupcake, and took him back to the apartment. Movers started coming for the rest of my stuff. I hadn't prepared for our property manager thinking that we were both moving out, and that we hadn't given them the required vacancy notice. She came to talk to me right as my Uber was coming, and I told her what was going on. Unfortunately, they had already called him because his name was the only one on the lease. He called and texted me a few times, but I haven't replied. His workday won't be over for a couple more hours. I left my apartment keys and anything he had ever bought me that I hadn't sold already. Didn't feel like taking that stuff with me. While packing, I remembered we bought a pet cam that shoots treats out from the entertainment center, and I turned it back on. I promised myself I'd disconnect it by midnight tomorrow, but I have my own predictions on how he'll react, and I gotta know for sure. Yeah, it's messed up. Sue me. I actually forgot to leave a note. I was running out of time before my Uber came, and I just left the lingerie set that he was so obsessed with on the bed. He'll figure it out, eventually. Or not. I'm at the airport now with my dog, and I'm just sitting waiting for my flight. I wish I could say that I feel free, but I don't. I'm just tired. Thank you for all the well wishes, and thank you more to all the other women who reached out with similar stories. I think I might have caved and stayed if you all hadn't. Good for this OP. I'm glad she had the courage and strength to leave this dude. But at the same time, what did this guy do for a career to be able to manage 8 different women? Like, bro, that's more than one a day. Also, what's up with buying every girl the same exact lingerie? Like, you have no issue with multiple women, but you draw the line at underwear? All jokes aside, I hope this OP gets back on their feet and meets someone that actually appreciates them in the future. Believe me, modern day dating sucks, so I wish her the best. Sales director tells me to ignore details, ends up losing the company $8 million. I work with the federal contractor responsible to buy and bundle hardware, software, etc. Any government organization needs, and I review the contracts in terms of financial liability and legal clauses. In other words, I ensure we make money and we are legally covered. These contracts range from $5,000 to $40 million. Last year, our company went through a reorganization, i.e. firing people and giving more work to the people still left with the company while paying us peanuts. We are a small company with less than 200 employees, and we are trying to retain our government customers while big companies like Amazon Cloud will eventually replace us in less than 10 years. The government customers love working with us because this is the only thing we do, and we treat customers better than big contractors who don't care. My company laid off 30 people from my 50-person team, so now 20 people do the work of 50 people at the same salary. We are paid by the month, not work hours, and we don't get sales bonuses. This is important to the story. I have a habit of reviewing everything carefully and spending hours on each contract, even the ones that just make us a few $1,000s. The government vendor selection process is slow, and they are very risk averse, so a lot of customers start at a few $1,000s and end up in the 8 or 9 figure contract range if everything goes well. Since people were laid off, I was struggling with the work volume, and as a result, contracts were piling up. The sales director, who was on a different team, did not like me as I was slow, and I would also catch any tricks the sales team tried to play by overpromising customers or doing something shady. Government clients / customers loved working with me. They enjoyed the support I provided, and I was truthful regarding our capabilities and our drawbacks. This was something else the director hated me for, since he thought I was tanking sales. However, almost all my clients were repeat customers for over a decade. Here's an example. Sales wanted a school district to buy outdated Dell laptops while the entire state was moving towards new, cheaper Chromebooks. Schools don't have much budget, and whatever they buy stays with the school for 5+ years. Sales was offloading expensive and useless stuff to get better bonuses, and also charging customers nearly $1 million to provide IT support for faults arising from ancient hardware. During my conversation with the school district, I shared examples of state governments in the Northeast buying Chromebooks and saving money while future-proofing the hardware. My job was to give the best quote to customers and develop trust to sign a 5 or 10-year contract. So the school district bought Chromebooks, which were 40% cheaper and had less than 20% of the previous quoted IT support cost. As a result, sales team lost a few $1,000s in bonuses, but we got this customer with us for a 5-year contract. The sales director got mad as I was working on small contracts at a slow pace and reprimanded me in front of our manager. The manager did not care and did not defend me and asked, "Why don't you follow what the sales director says and stop fussing over small contracts?" I said small contracts turn into big ones, hence I should pay attention to them as well. Mistakes in small contracts could harm us if the contract becomes a big one. I am struggling at work because you gave me the job of 3 or 4 people. At this point, he was shouting at me that I don't understand contracts and that he has been doing this stuff for 5 years and he makes more money in a month than I do in a year, so I should listen to him and not question him. This was a bit insulting as I live in a shared apartment and I'm struggling to make ends meet, while he drives an expensive luxury car and goes out to fancy lunches with government employees. I asked the sales director to send me an email with list of suggestions to improve my work. He rudely complied and said, "Can you not even remember what I just said in the meeting?" His email said, "Do not review contracts less than $100K and trust the sales team has done their due diligence." I replied by copying my manager in the email and said that this could create liability in the future, and I want him to confirm again that the sales team will do financial and legal compliance themselves for small contracts, and that I need to stop revising small contracts below $100K with no exceptions unless told otherwise. This was gold. Cue malicious compliance. Instead of 2 hours, I spent 10 minutes on small contracts, and bam, my backlog cleared and I was home by 6:30 p.m. Now, a contract worth $10K comes through and I find some issues with this contract, since it said that we offered a 30% rebate to our software providers. This was something we stopped doing 5 years ago, and now we just offer software providers 5 to 10% rebates on contracts. Also, I knew this government client recently got a massive budget and was on a spending spree. This was part of my job to know. There was a high chance that this 10K customer could become a $100 million client, and the 30% rebate means that we would have to give them $30 million on top of the usual cost. But I remembered what the sales director said. Why don't you just follow what the sales director says and stop fussing over small contracts? So 10 minutes later, I email, no issues detected on compliance check by the sales team. As I mentioned before, government contracts are slow. No one cared or raised the issue about the 30% rebate since it was just a $10,000 customer. 10 months later, this government customer said that they want to work with us and get at least the same terms or better for a new $50 million contract. This was the largest contract in our company's history. The sales director happily gave him a handshake deal that we will offer the same or better terms. Government clients can legally just buy more on their current contract, so the sales director had no issue promising the same terms. Given the contract size, everyone from legal, IT, and finance gets involved to work on just one contract. For 3 months, everyone worked on this contract. The sales team was giddy that they would be getting $1 million bonuses. I don't get a sales bonus to ensure I protect customers and the company. The finance team finishes their review and says that the company is going to lose $8 million and not make any money. Everyone is shocked. The sales director gave a deal without checking with us, and we cannot go back on something we offer. Changing contract terms is frowned upon by the government, and they have legal contracts stating nothing will change. We are legally obligated to offer the government the same terms for 3 years. The legal team says that we need to take the hit on our balance sheets and swallow the losses. The CEO called a big meeting in a fancy conference room with big TVs, and everyone had to find a scapegoat to take the blame. Every department lead, managers, and people involved in this contract were summoned. The sales leader had to explain to his team why they wouldn't be getting bonuses on this big contract they spent 3 months on. Finally, legal and finance meet and share their findings that we lost money due to the 30% rebate clause. The sales director goes crazy and blamed me in front of everyone and asked me to pack my stuff in front of 30 people. He follows by saying that I am terrible at my job despite my 100% customer satisfaction. I calmly open my laptop and connect the display cable and open Outlook while displaying his email on 3 big TV screens stating that I should stop reviewing small contracts. While all 30 people read the email, I await the sales director's reaction with a faint smile. He goes into rage mode claiming I misunderstood his email and I am terrible at my job. Then I scroll down where he ignores my warning regarding potential liability to the company, and his response explicitly asks me to ignore that. His face turns white when he realizes he screwed up. He then blabbers trying to find some other scapegoat, making racist tirades against our IT consultants in Vietnam, and just lost it. Now here comes the aftermath. I was told to spend 2 to 3 hours on each contract, and the company eventually figured out that it's cheaper for them to hire 20 more people like me and pay us $70,000 a year than take big losses on their contracts. Our team has 40 members now, still not 50, but it's enough to offset the contract volume. Because of the losses, the sales director had to pay back his previous year's bonus as he had a clawback clause with the company, i.e., if you screw up, you need to pay us. The sales director had to pay nearly $300,000 and was fired from his job. He then sued the company for wrongful termination, and we just heard today that he lost the case and now owes us another $200,000 in legal fees. Now he owes $500,000 to our company. This story actually has 2 lengthy updates. Update 1. A lot of people may ask why I'm still doing this job that pays less than state wages, and I might be able to make more in other companies. I help government customers buy good stuff from many hardware and software companies so they don't overpay or rely on one big company. I feel proud when I save tax dollars and help customers. During COVID, a lot of governments went remote, i.e. local meetings on Zoom and keeping the government running while working from home. There was a budget freeze due to COVID, the economy shutting down, and the COVID relief bill was still months away. This was the time when the sales team had helpless government customers willing to sign anything just to get remote hardware and software. I saw this as extortion, and despite being an introvert who lacks initiative to get promoted, I was able to convince the CEO to offer free 60-day trials of expensive hardware, and just charge for setup and transportation fees. This was a big risk, but we brought an insurance company in to offset any damages. I convinced the CEO that this is the time for us to show that we are partners with the government and it was an emergency. The sales team was mad for months, then they realized that all those free customers were calling us for paid contracts over companies that are 10 times our size and would usually win contracts by lobbying or taking government decision makers to expensive lunches or giving them Super Bowl tickets. I cannot legally disclose the government entities by name, but I can vaguely say that some entities in the state of New York and the state government of Florida were both using this trial program during the first wave of COVID. I might change jobs soon since we just got a 3% salary hike in the current market, while the company has nearly doubled its revenue in the last few years. Update 2. I just remembered another story that made leaders hate me even more. This was during the COVID wave when we were all working from home and I was getting used to Zoom. We had a telecom contract with the state government during COVID and everyone joined a Zoom call to discuss the contract. The sales team was increasing this customer's telecom bills from $60K a month to $300,000 a month. I objected that the increased calls during COVID are not high enough to justify such a big price hike and we should increase the bill to $100K a month. This was enough to cover the costs and even improve profit margins. But the sales team started laughing and saying that if the customers can pay more and is ready to pay more, why am I being so vocal? The leadership asked me to shut my mouth and proceeded with the $300,000 contract. So I started working on other stuff and minimized the Zoom app. I didn't end the Zoom calls myself as the meeting admins ended them. Someone said bye, nice meeting you all, and I naively assumed that the call had ended. I vented my frustration by saying that these salespeople are like wolves when the country is going through terrible times. A coworker sent me a chat message a few minutes later saying that everyone heard what I just said. No one complained or confronted me, but this did offend them. Also, I wanted to add that not all sales team members are like this. Almost all the new sales reps are eager to learn from everyone and not pushing stuff and instead are talking to customers. However, new sales reps handle small or low priority contracts. Any big contracts get automatically transferred to sales leadership. This story was wild, but I loved every minute of it. For anyone who is a vocal person in their workplace, the best advice I ever got and could ever give you is create a paper trail. This is exactly what the OP did and it saved her butt. If you ever think that something is wrong at your company and your boss tells you to ignore it, send them an email typing out everything they told you to ignore or stop worrying about and ask for confirmation. This is what you can use against them when the problems hit the fan and they try to take you down instead of themselves. Remember, coworkers aren't your friends. Most of them will throw you under the bus if it means that they will keep their jobs. My manager tells me my only job is to help customers. Years ago, I worked at an office supply store. We had idiot manager after idiot manager cycle through and come up with dumb ideas to try to make the store run better. And this was one of those dumb ideas. The idea was that between certain hours, I think it was 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we were only allowed to directly help customers. No restocking shelves, no unloading trucks. I was in charge of changing and checking prices, but wasn't allowed during those hours. Any of those tasks can easily be done while still being accessible to customers, but apparently that wasn't good enough. The rest of the staff decided to sneakily do their work when the manager wasn't looking. Otherwise, they couldn't get everything done. Luckily, I was able to finish my job outside of these hours, so I decided to follow this ridiculous rule. At first, I stood up front and turned myself into a Walmart-style greeter, but I hated it, and I didn't really feel like this was following the rule as customers typically don't like being asked questions the second they get in the door. Eventually, I found a spot at the back of the store where I could see the front door, and I posted myself there. I do absolutely nothing besides stand there and stare at the front door. When a customer came in, I would track them with my eyes, see what aisle they walked down to, and I would go ask if they needed help. When I finished up helping them, or more often after they tell me that they don't need anything, I walk back to my spot in the back of the store and continue staring at the front door. Sometimes I would stand there for less than a minute, but sometimes I would stand there for about 15 minutes or more. I do this for 3 hours a day, 4 days of the week that I'm there, for I don't even know how many weeks. One of my favorite memories during this time was a staring contest with my manager. I was in my spot in the back of the store and he was near the front of the store when he spotted me standing there, not even remotely pretending to work. He stares at me across the store and I stare right back at him, hoping he'll confront me. After all, I'm not allowed to do anything besides helping customers, and I know I've approached every single customer in the store. Unfortunately, he didn't, and I lost the staring contest after a few minutes when a customer came in and I had to go approach them. When I go back to my spot, he had already moved on. Eventually, I quit. I was given my final warning for my attitude. No customer complaints or problems with incorrect prices. I was just rude to managers. If you don't know, final warning means that the next time I do something wrong, I will be fired. And I realized my managers weren't going to get smarter, and I wasn't going to learn to bite my tongue. So it was best that I just move on. Of course, they didn't realize how good I was at my job, and my replacement was terrible, partially because they didn't have me train him before I left. Price tags all over the store were wrong for months. This is totally me. I often pride myself on how good I was at my jobs. I was the type of employee that followed the rules, but I also did my job in the smartest and most times fastest way possible. When you work in this type of way, management usually sees all the downtime you have now instead of seeing how well and effective you are at your position. This ultimately causes problems because they expect you to do more than your other coworkers because you're so good at your job, but they don't give you a pay increase for it. I think this OP was very tame when it came to getting back at management. If this video gets 5,000 likes, I'll tell you about the time I quit my job of 8 years by making a well-viewed TikTok video and by leaving hidden messages for people to find after I quit. My boyfriend left me naked on a train. I had a weird relationship with my ex-boyfriend a couple years ago. I'm not gonna mention my city since this was a very humiliating experience. I do all sorts of crazy things that my boyfriend asked me to do. That includes, and not limited to, satisfying his needs in public places, restaurants, movie theaters, malls, bus, train, even on share autos and cabs. It was a fine night, and after our dinner date, it got pretty late. We had to travel in the late night train to our place. His house will be about 30 minutes after our boarding, and my house is about 3 stops after his. As soon as we got into the empty coach, we started making out. He surprisingly remembered something dumb that we discussed while we were wasted, that I had never traveled naked in a train. I was so dumb enough to accept his challenge, and I gave him all my clothes. The train was super empty, and it's not a frequent route. We were making out, he was being all handsy, and suddenly on one of the stops, a few people got into the coach we were in. I got super nervous, and I quickly sat down on the floor and squished myself between seats in the last row. I was so nervous, but I couldn't stop smiling at myself on the scenario I was in. A few guys that got in were just sitting 2 rows in front of my BF, and I couldn't get my clothes from him without getting caught by them. I wanted to wait it out till they left. With my handbag, clothes, and everything with my BF, his stop was coming up and he wanted to get out. So he kept my handbag, clothes in the seat next to him and signaled to me, "Bye," and he got out. He's a crazy, idiotic person now that I think about this. A few of the guys got down, but other people started getting in. I was still laying in the dark beneath the last row trying to cover myself. After a few more stops, my stop came and I got super scared now. I definitely could not get out and take my clothes without someone spotting me for sure. I was just looking at everyone's feet praying for everyone to get down in the next stop by some miracle. Nothing happened. I missed my stop and I didn't even get up. I started crying within myself. A few minutes later, I could hear my phone ringing and I couldn't pick it up either. I let it ring. I knew it was my boyfriend trying to check with me if I got home. After a few more stops, everyone in my coach got down. I decided to get up and get dressed so I could get down in the next stop and probably hire an auto or a cab. And there goes all my plan in vain. My handbag and clothes were stolen. Not sure who took it, but probably someone noticed my phone ringing and took the entire loot. I luckily saw my underwear still lying on the floor, thanks to the wind, and I quickly put them on. I covered my body with my hands and I ran towards the end of the door and got down in the tracks. I still couldn't believe how I walked back home that night. I reached my home probably in the middle of the night and took a hot shower and slept for another 24 hours crying and trying to make better life decisions, like choosing a good boyfriend. Wow, wow, wow. This story was crazy and kind of hot. On the girl's part. That BF was a total jerk though. If you had a woman who was down to do all the crazy weird stuff that you asked, you should probably try protecting that woman at all costs. But I'll leave this up to the viewer. Is this guy a jerk? I'm madly in love and it's slowly killing me. This all started in about November, when I got over a girl that I had liked for 4 years, and then I fell in love with this other girl. We'll call her Kay. I started totally obsessing over her. So on Valentine's, I built up the balls and I told her how I felt. I got shot down. Hard. Or at least softly, but it slowly became harder. She basically told me she wasn't ready for a boyfriend yet, but she still thinks that I'm a really nice guy. Yada yada yada. She essentially acted like she was going to be really nice about it. And she was, for a little bit. But I don't know what happened. She totally started avoiding me and cutting me off, even though I made it really clear that I was going to respect her boundaries and everything. And I thought I handled it very well. But she started ignoring me. I would try to send her a snap here or there or whatever, and I would totally get left undelivered for hours, then days, then weeks, and over a month until I reached back out to her. She would respond to me an hour later, then I'd snap her back, and then we were back at square one. It had nothing to do with her being off the app or anything, because every time I made a story update, she would be one of the first people to view it. But it wasn't strictly on Snap. I'll use the example from the other day. She had a class right before me, so while I was waiting outside with the rest of my class for her class to leave, we made eye contact. I obviously wasn't going to strike up conversation, but she totally eliminated even the slightest possibility of me saying anything to her. She immediately broke eye contact, swallowed noticeably hard, like she was swallowing a rock or something, looked down a bit, and started going in the other direction in somewhat of a quick fashion. I almost feel like she's scared of me or something, because it's really apparent that she's uncomfortable around me. That's the last thing I want. Not even selfishly like, oh, woe is me, she'll never date me because she's uncomfortable around me, boo-hoo. I just feel terrible. I don't want her to be stressing out because she feels like she can't trust me. I don't want her to be nervous. This isn't coming from the part of me that likes her. It's coming from the empathetic part of me that's just using basic human decency. I want to talk to her about it, but I'm just so paranoid that she'll be even more uncomfortable. At this point, I don't even know what to feel, say, do, or even think for that matter. That's why it's killing me slowly. I seriously doubt that she's on Reddit, but Kay, if you're reading this, you'll probably know it's you, and I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for any and all damage I've done. Oh man, this confession hits right on the nose for me. I've totally been here, and it's always a crappy situation. I should add that this doesn't change when you get older. You would think that, hey, we're adults, we can respect each other and still be friends. Nope. Doesn't work most of the time. Now, I totally understand why some women do this, and maybe even some men. Could be bad past experiences, or they just don't want to lead the person on in any way. To be honest, I think a lot of people are missing out on some really great friendships by acting this way. One of my best friends is a girl that actually rejected me. Also, what sucks about the situation is men are constantly told, why can't you just be honest about your feelings? And when they are, it costs them friendships. So why would they even bother? Like I said before, dating's just hard, man. Am I the jerk because I dislike my only friends? As I get older, I realize more and more how much I dislike my friends. They are all different kinds of people, but to sum it up, most of them are not genuine. I try my best to be, but I know I'm not perfect. For years, I have enabled their non-genuine behavior, and now I'm old enough to really sit back and evaluate. I understand that not everyone can be like me, and I won't like everyone, but I would assume with people that I've known for so long, I shouldn't feel this way. I love them, I do. When things are good, they are awesome. But they slip up and start acting like tyrants, and when they do, my energy is depleted. They act so differently individually that I have to distance myself from hanging out with them one-on-one. It's like I'm always worried what will happen next or how they are feeling when they barely even respond to how my day was. I have noticed that most people in my life really don't care about me. I don't know how to feel, and I'm just overall confused. I don't like that I don't want to be around them, and they simply put on a fake face around me. Once you notice it, it's hard not to be completely hard, cold, and closed off. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I mess up a lot in major ways, but I'm always ready to say I'm sorry. I want to always try and be the best person I can be. I'm working on myself, and while doing so, I can see that most people aren't concerned with being kind, caring people. I'm sad, and I wish I just had at least one real connection. This is tough, but I understand. I feel like a lot of people that are friends because of school and work. I can tell you that none of my close friends are from either of those places. I actually found some of my best friends on YouTube. It sucks that we can't hang out daily in real life like some people do, but we do chat almost daily, and I'll take those type of relationships over fake ones any day. And just in case you don't know, you're not obligated to be friends with anyone. I cut out bad people from my life every year. But I also understand that some people just keep people around because they don't want to feel lonely, which is something I totally get. Substances are destroying me. Yo, I'm turning 15 in a couple days, and I'm nothing but an addicted junkie. I've done nothing with my life. My grades are horrible. I don't think I've passed a school year with anything higher than Fs. I don't have hobbies. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't have very many friends. What have I been doing then? Substances. Name a substance, I've probably done it. There's nothing I can do to stop the cravings. I've tried cold turkey, I've tried slowly easing out, doesn't work. I've struggled with other things too, cutting, tattooing myself, punching my ribs until they are pink, swollen, and bruised. I'm so dumb about everything. I'm so dumb for doing this to myself. I'm dumb for taking it too far. Jesus, I'm dumb academically. Today, my teacher was helping me with algebra because I was missing an assignment. He got so frustrated with me because I had to pull out a calculator for a simple multiplication. I don't know how to divide. I've tried, and I can't. My brain is permanently foggy, and I have really bad memory issues. Anyways, thanks for reading my cringe vent. Advice would be greatly appreciated. Now, the story has a few edits. Edit 1. I've never had so many people believe in me in such a short time. I'm gonna tell my parents in the morning. They will take me to the hospital and everything will get sorted out. I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to become homeless and live on the streets, rotting away, you know? I'm not sure if I'll be able to have my phone or anything while I'm there. And if I'm not, then I will give an update as soon as I can. Thank you. Take care. Edit 2. Wow, I finally did it. I told my parents about my addiction, running on no sleep and 2 cups of green tea. I made them breakfast and sat them in the living room. They were starting to get a worried look at this point because they knew something was up. I was just standing there shaking and crying. I did that get all stiff and mumble thing that I always do when I get overwhelmed. And I mumbled, Mom, Dad, I'm addicted to substances and I need help. They just hugged me and they wiped my tears for a while. We talked more and I opened up about how I tried to quit before and failed. My mom had her suspicions but only thought it was an occasional smoke and nothing like the level of what I do. They said that they are disappointed in me for lying about money. They said that they were disappointed that I didn't talk to them sooner. They asked me who sells to me. They said that they are going to look into a rehab clinic for me. God damn, I love my parents. They are wise and they approached this really well. No yelling or anything. My mom cried like an uncontrollable sob. It put me in my place seeing that. The only thing I was thinking was, go to your room before they search it and hide what you left. And you made them disappointed in you. What if they don't love you anymore? Holy crap, it took so much restraint to not just hide them. I watched as they flushed them down the toilet. It was painful. My motivation is getting clean. It's going to be so hard to stay on track, but I'm finally ready to start again. I'm really worried that if I don't have substances, I might go back to cutting. I don't know what to do about that now, but all I know is that I'm damn proud of myself for doing what I did. And I really hope the clinics aren't as bad as they are on television. Thank you all so much. I wouldn't have done this without the push and motivation. I'll update you if there's anything more. The final edit to this story. My mom is looking into clinics. There are some really nice high-end places on the other side of the state. It even has horses. I don't know when I'll get in because the paperwork and insurance thing takes time, I'm assuming. I'm worried. I'm worried that I won't be able to stay clean. I'm worried that if I become fully sober, I will be left with nothing but a foggy brain and memory problems. It's like all my thoughts are shallow, and if I try to elaborate in my head, it all just goes blank. I don't remember much of anything. I don't remember my grandfather's face, much of my childhood. I don't even remember what shoes I wore today. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of going in the right direction. I'm proud that I spoke out on my troubles. If you guys have any questions, please ask. I'd love to answer them. I don't really have anything to add to this except that I'm proud of this OP for reaching out for help and realizing they needed it. Let this story be a reminder that there's no shame in asking for help when you need it because at the end of the day, there are people out there that just want to see you happy and healthy. My best friend is in jail for SAing our other friend's sister. For some context, I live in a small southern town where everyone knows each other. I, 17-year-old male, my friend, who we'll call X, is also a 17-year-old male, and my other friend, who I'm going to call Y, is a 16-year-old male. We all live about a 2-minute walk from each other. Normally, me and X hang out daily. We ride to school together, we tell each other everything, etc. Yesterday, March 5th, I was having a good start to my day. It was a Saturday and I didn't have to work. No one was home and I had a productive day the day before. So I'm looking forward to a day at the gym with my friend X. But when I called him, he didn't seem like he normally did. He was quiet and soft-spoken without really acknowledging anything I said. He didn't normally act like that. He had mentioned that he had gotten in some pretty hot water with friend Y's mom. And she was saying that he had messed with friend Y's sister, 13. He said, I was going to see friend Y to play basketball, but friend Y wasn't there, and she let me in, and we were in there for a moment, and then I left. I believed him. I thought the girl was lying. I could have never imagined him doing that. Time goes by and I'm at work, and I noticed that I haven't heard from him all day, which is rare. And his mom asked if I could come keep their dog for a while. I asked why, and she completely dodged the question and said come by after work to talk. She says friend X is in jail, and she tries to get me to get someone to admit that the girl is lying. Or really anything to help him. I went about my day for a while and called friend Y and told him how serious this was, and if his sister was lying, she needed to admit it. He told me she wasn't lying and that they had got a test done. It turned out he really did it. This next part is a bit confusing, but the OP writes, then just out of spite, says friend Y had done the same thing a couple months back. Friend Y is a nice, respectful Christian boy, so obviously no one believed it. It doesn't make sense that friend Y said that because he was talking to friend Y, so I assume friend X said this. The OP continues with, my best friend is an SA'er and I wanted to cry, fight someone, and throw up all at the same time. I wasn't exactly shocked because it was no secret. He was struggling in life with family life, and everyone could agree he was generally a bad person. Normally, he would just get the benefit of the doubt. He would lie, steal, cheat on his girlfriend. He was a master manipulator. But who could expect such a thing from anyone close to them? I don't feel bad for him, and I hope he stays in there. As hard as it is to be without my best friend, he's made his own bed, and as far as I'm concerned, he's dead to me. He has nothing now, and he's ruined his life over some selfish, psychopathic behavior. Breaking the news to my family was devastating because they adore him. He affected so many people within a 40-minute time span. It's such an odd feeling. Nothing feels real. I have to start a new chapter in my life without someone I spent 90% of my time with. I just needed to get this off my chest. I haven't told anyone but my family. There's almost a feeling of guilt with how much trust I gave him, and even for just associating with him. I'm so glad this OP dropped this disgusting friend of his. This exact thing happened to me with my best friend of 10 years. I knew he had his flaws, but I never thought he could do something so terrible. I dropped him the second I found out. I didn't need to talk to him, I didn't need to hear him out. He got to go free because police dismissed the whole thing because drinking was involved. They didn't care about the weird behavior or text messages after the whole thing. So I understand the OP's feelings here, but I'm glad he did the right thing. And I hope that any other young men or women that find themselves in this situation do the right thing as well. This Karen wants to get rid of her fiance's 5-year-old kid. My 32-year-old fiance has a 5-year-old daughter. Her mother passed away when she was giving birth to her. He has been raising her ever since he lost his wife, with the help of his family, of course. I am now in the picture, and we are going to get married in 2023, and I'm 6 months pregnant with his son. I am not the stepmother type, so I know I won't treat this daughter the same way I will treat our son. To be quite honest, she annoys me. She looks exactly like her mother, so she constantly reminds my fiance of his dead wife, and she is very attached to her daddy, which makes me afraid that my son will not be able to bond with his father because of her. Basically, I want to tell my fiance to get rid of her. She can live with her grandparents, or we can find a nice couple that wants to adopt a child. I don't know how to approach the situation, but I need to find a way to convince my fiance to get rid of her. I'm just trying to look out for my son and make sure that he will get all of his father's attention that he deserves. Please help. Bruh. I hope someone knows this mom and sends this to the guy she is about to marry, because this is grade A terrible human behavior right here. If I was this guy, after that new baby is born, I'd try to get full custody and get as far away from this woman as possible, because I wouldn't want my child learning anything from this terrible person. Am I the jerk? I stole from and lied to my poor father and never confessed. I'm currently 26, and this happened when I was 20. I still haven't told anyone, and I need to get this off my chest. It's especially weighing on me since he died recently. At the time, I was dating a really crappy guy who I was convinced was just having a rough patch in his life. Even when he started stealing money from me that year, I would let it go after a small fight. He would leave me with very little, and I was often going to my dad's place for snacks. One day, though, I reached my limit. I had gotten a bonus from my job at the time, and I had no plans on telling my boyfriend about it, in hopes that I could finally have some money for myself. But he found out, and inevitably stole it. It did start a big fight between us, and I ran to my dad's that night to sleep over. I explained everything to him, and he was very supportive. I even had to talk him down when he started threatening to go attack my boyfriend himself. We ate dinner, and he went to bed a little later. So, I was alone with my thoughts. I remember that my dad had been saving money to go on vacation, after several decades of hard work. My dad wasn't very well off himself, so the $300 he had saved so far was a big deal. But something had came over me. I stole all the money from the glass jar he had been keeping it in, and then I broke the jar with a plan. I also broke a few little trinkets that were laying around. When my dad woke up the next morning, he saw the broken empty jar and demanded an explanation as I had been standing there. I forced myself to cry, although it wasn't hard, and I made up a story that my boyfriend had just come in, started a huge fight, and stole the money, breaking other things in the process. He didn't even question me. I guess my crying worked. He immediately went to call the cops, but I begged and convinced him not to, just saying stuff like, he pays the bills at our apartment, I'll have nothing if he gets arrested, and other BS. It took a lot to convince him not to report it. He offered me to stay at his place, but I kept making excuses. After a few days, I went home feeling sick with myself. I wanted so badly to return the money, but I felt like he would never forgive me. Looking back, I wish I could punch myself in the face for that. I was such a blind idiot, and he continues to be a supportive dad after that, even though I stayed with that monster of an ex for 2 more years. But last year, my current boyfriend and I went in on a Christmas present for my dad. It was an all-expense paid trip to go on the vacation he dreamed of. It was a lot for us to pull it off, but I still feel like I haven't redeemed myself for what I did to him before. I also haven't told my boyfriend about this. I just told him that I wanted to surprise my dad with the trip and continued the lie I had been committed to. This story had me boiling with rage. This OP mentioned that she wanted to punch herself, and I wanted to do the big brother thing and say, stop hating yourself, because she totally deserves it. I'm glad that she tried to redeem what she had done by giving her father the vacation he dreamed of. That is a good thing, but I wish she would have just told him before he died, because now that's just something that she will have to live with for the rest of her life. And yeah, he probably would have been mad, but from his previous actions, he probably would have forgave her because he seemed like a good dad. Am I the jerk? I'm a grown man who broke a kid's arm. At the time, I was a rich lawyer in DC in fairly good shape. For example, I could easily bench 270. Anyways, part of being a lawyer in DC is picnics. Lots and lots of picnics. Me and my wife were at one of said picnics, and there was this a-hole little kid running around trying to physically tackle me. I tried to just sort of put my hand out and hold him away from me, but no, he continued to do this. I guess some people might say this was one of those I didn't know my own strength types of situations, but I did know how strong I was. Anyways, I got so annoyed that I picked up this kid and I threw him. I threw him, like in the air, feet off the ground threw him. He kind of landed on his arm and we moved on. He didn't say anything and he just stopped. A couple weeks later, someone who was also at that picnic said, "Hey, remember when you threw that kid at the picnic?" I was like, "Yeah." "Well, yeah, you broke his arm." I was terrified. It's been 18 years or so. Nothing ever happened. No letter, no nothing, just like it never happened. This confession reminded me of a middle school memory. I was on the basketball team and we had this short, skinny kid that loved to pick on people. I'm pretty sure this was because he was insecure about his height. Well, he always tried to pick on me, but I would always just brush it off until one day we were doing drills and he threw the ball at my back. I told him to chill out, but he just laughed in my face and moments later did it again. That was the end of the line. I threw my ball to the side, started walking towards him, he started backpedaling fast. I grabbed him in a full Nelson lock, spun him around and let him go. Dude went flying. Remember, this was middle school, so this dude was like 70 pounds soaking wet. He did try to act all tough after going airborne, but coach showed up to break up any possible fight. Dude never messed with me again after that. It was good times. Am I the jerk? I stole a guy's wallet, took the money and credit cards. This was a while ago, about 2015. I worked in the airport cleaning out planes once the passengers left. My team went to a certain aircraft and there was this one JetBlue tech worker who was beyond nasty to us for no reason. He was literally like, "Y'all maids can't come back later? Do you not see that I'm on this plane or are you blind?" I was leading my team and I got directions from my management to do this plane because it would have passengers boarding in about an hour. I told them to ignore him and do their job as I will be doing mine. He continued to curse under his breath and act like we were beneath him because we were cleaning cabins. I went to clean another row of seats and I saw his wallet, and I only knew it was his wallet because his ID was inside. So I picked it up, took out the money and the cards and threw everything else in a big garbage bag that we put the trash in. I didn't feel bad at the time, but now I'm like, damn, it was a pretty jerk move. Yeah, I would say that was a pretty jerk move, my guy. And if you use the credit cards, pretty illegal. Am I the jerk? I pulled a knife on a person at a party in college. In the early 2000s, I was at a college house party. Some a-hole sucker punched me in the head from behind trying to be funny. So I took out a pocket knife and showed it to him with a "don't mess with me" look on my face. I didn't open it. I didn't think anything of it at first, but a second or two later, the entire place freaked out, I can't blame them, and threw me out of the house. Literally. The 3 friends I was there with ghosted me after that, and in a flash, I lost my whole group of friends instantly. We had been good friends for 2 years at this point, but apparently that was the last straw type of thing for me. I ended up spending the rest of my college career, 2.5 years, essentially alone aside from occasionally hanging out with neighbors and coworkers. This was almost 20 years ago and I still cringe when I think about how unbelievably dumb I was. Pulling out a knife can be a bit extreme, but dude got sucker punched! Also, what kind of friends are these? They stopped being friends with him because he decided to stand his ground? After getting sucker punched? Those friends must suck. Am I the jerk? I let a friend take the blame for the burn damage I caused. In my 20s, I had a roommate that I liked, who had friends that I didn't like, and they were at the house all the time. One night, a long time ago, when people smoked cigarettes by the cartons and every house had ashtrays everywhere, 3 of us were very, very lit, and probably wasted, playing video games. Beer everywhere, ashtrays overflowing, I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up very early and saw my roommate's dirtbag friend passed out on the floor. I also saw that my roommate's coffee table, a really beautiful piece that he made himself in class, had a 4-inch burn line in the top from a freshly lit cigarette that had rolled off the ashtray. The butt proved that it was my brand. I had apparently lit it and passed out. Completely believable behavior from any of the 3 of us. I didn't hesitate for a second. I picked up my cigarette butt, fished out one of the dirt bags from the ashtray, and burned it down to the filter, even melting into the lacquer. I woke up a few hours later to a lot of yelling and a lot of apologizing. I usually have an active conscience, but I never really managed to feel bad about this. Bruh, you should! I mean, the amount of effort that went into framing this guy, dude should at least feel a little bad. Am I the jerk? I stole over $500 worth of food from the fast food restaurant I worked at. When I was 17, I had got my first job at a fast food restaurant that served pizza. All of my coworkers were cool and for the most part good people, but the owner on the other hand treated his workers terrible. My manager was constantly working double shifts and was threatened to be fired if she did not comply with every one of his wishes. She was a single mother living off minimum wage, and this pissed me off because she was a genuinely good person just trying to earn an honest living and provide for her son. I quickly realized why my coworkers hated the owner, as they had threatened to fire them all the same way. I also noticed that some of my coworkers would take drinks from the cooler that was in front of the store. I was curious if this was allowed to just take a drink whenever you wanted. We weren't, but I didn't care because that meant less money in the pockets of the owner. Little by little each shift I was stealing after that. It started off with just taking a drink during some of my shifts and giving away small things like sauce cups to people who asked. Eventually I started making my own pizzas and taking them after my shift without paying for them. One day my manager had brought to the coworkers' attention that we could not take food or drinks without paying for them. I didn't care though, because all the workers, myself included, were taking abuse from not only the owner, but the customers that would come in. Eventually I started taking multiple pizzas, drinks, sauces, literally anything I liked. And even my friends would come in while I was working and I would give them anything they wanted. I knew my manager was turning a blind eye to the workers because there was so much worse things that were happening than just me stealing. One of my coworkers was actually selling stuff out of the back of the store. Anyways, I never got in trouble for all the stealing I had done, and I quit a few months ago. Stealing is bad, kids, and so is treating your workers badly. So I don't really care that this guy stole from a crappy owner. Am I the jerk? I outed my brother when I was younger and caused him to be disowned. Never would I make excuses for the amount of hurt and suffering that I put my brother through by my stupid actions. But this whole situation has always been the root of my hatred of myself. Our family are strict Catholics. I was an impressionable child who grew up with hearing bigoted beliefs. Being gay was a sin, how men should only be with women, etc. Almost my entire life. So the day I caught my brother with another man, I relayed the information to my father, naively thinking at the time my brother would find help he needed. I didn't think it would lead to my brother and his boyfriend ending up in the ER and my parents practically throwing him out on the streets and disowning him. It has been years since then, and I have cut ties with my family for a while now. From what I can tell from social media is that my brother is doing well for himself with his husband, and for that I am grateful. This story does have an edit. Huge thanks for the kind words and supportive comments. After a couple of hours of debating and the encouragement from friends, I have decided to try and contact my brother once again. I did a little after cutting ties with my parents, and it was only to apologize and congratulate him on his marriage. Being from a very conservative state myself, I hear sad stories like this all the time. I hope this OP and his brothers can make amends, because it does seem like he knows the error of his ways. Am I the jerk? I once stole some of my teacher's pens from her pencil case when I was 6. And got the special kid kicked out. It was so wrong of me to do what I did. A couple of days before this happened, I saw my teacher's colorful pens and I really wanted them so bad. Fast forward a couple of days later when we were sitting in a circle with a few kids having a learning support session. From the teachers separate to the whole class, which included a special kid. Let's call him Luke. While we were reading a book, the teacher stands up to go get something, and that's when I decided to empty her pencil case on the floor, wanting some of those pens. I went through all of the pens and took the ones I wanted and put the rest back. After lunch, we were all told to go into the classroom as there was a problem. While we were sitting there, the teacher entered the room and explained how some of her pens were missing from her pencil case. No one would own up to it as expected, which made everyone lose their lunch break. While everyone was in the classroom, I went over to the special kid's bag and put all the pens that I took in his pencil case because I was scared that they would find me out. Fast forward to the end of the day. I went to my teacher and told her while she was gone to get something, Luke took some of her pens, and I completely blamed it on him knowing he wouldn't be able to defend himself. The next day after that, Luke wasn't in school and my teacher had a bruise on her face. At break time, I overheard some people talking about how he got angry at the teacher for being accused and kicked her in the face, which led to him getting kicked out of school. Sometimes I wonder how the kid is right now. I wish I had never done that. Bro, this kid was a jerk. I totally understand that he was 6, but just because kids are little doesn't mean that they can't be little jerks. What makes me so mad about this is he could have legit changed this kid's life with this little incident. The kid was probably labeled problematic, and his next teacher might have treated him differently. I say this because I was labeled as a problem child growing up, and it wasn't until the 3rd grade when my teacher, bless her soul, found out I was dyslexic. I wasn't a problem, I just had a learning disability. So yeah, I'm glad the OP knows they did wrong, but still a jerk in my opinion. Am I the jerk? I ran out of TP in the 3rd grade and used some random guy's shorts. So one day in the 3rd grade during recess, I really, and I mean really, had to poop. So like anyone else would do, I sprint all the way to the bathroom and took the next available stall. However, there just so happened to be another guy in the stall beside me, minding his own business and going about his day. After unloading this unholy poo, I had then noticed that my stall was out of TP. I also noticed that this guy in the stall beside me just so happened to have his shorts all the way off. My thoughts as a kid was that this guy should have kept his shorts on like a normal person instead of leaving them on the ground. So I then proceeded to do what I thought was my only option, was to use this guy's pair of shorts to wipe my butt. The entire time he was repeatedly screaming, "Give me back my shorts!" And I'm almost positive that in that moment he had no clue what my intentions were and just wanted his shorts back so he could go back to class. Or maybe he had thought that I was stealing from him. Regardless, after I had finished absolutely ruining his shorts, I had to find an escape route. Meanwhile, this kid is still screaming at me to give him back his shorts. My only option was to set them out of his reach and sprint out of the bathroom in hopes he wouldn't be able to catch up to me. Since then, I've still never spoken to this kid and I hope he's doing alright. Bro, this story legit made me drop my jaw and laugh. I can only imagine how scared this little kid is after having his shorts stolen. On top of that, whoever found him screaming, because I assume he didn't leave the stall, probably thought he pooped his own pants. So now he's probably known as the poops his pants kid at school. Dude, I feel so bad for that kid, but this story was hilarious. Am I the jerk? I stole about $70K from my parents over the past year. My parents live in another state from me, but left a large amount of cash in a hidden location back here in our home state. I had access to this stash ever since they left. About a year ago, I lost my job and had been struggling to find new work in my area that pays enough to keep my bills in order. I got a little desperate and took what I needed from the pile to make ends meet. To make long story short, I kept going back as temptation was too hard to resist. The money was spent on mostly rent, food, and random expenses, and occasionally fun things like a video game. For the most part, just living. It's been a year now, and I've taken a noticeable amount, and I'm starting to really feel the guilt and weight of my actions. My parents collectively make about $300K yearly and have been doing so for some time now, so they aren't strapped for cash. It was essentially an emergency fund I've been exploiting, but now I worry that when they inevitably discover that their money is gone, they'll press charges and send me to prison. I'm a newlywed, and I don't think I could give up my spouse and go to jail. The thought depresses me to the point where I think I'd rather pass on. I genuinely don't know how my parents will react when they find out what I've done. It's terrifying me. I love my parents very much, and the thought of this being brought to light breaks my heart. There is a good chance that they won't find out for another year or two at most. Part of me wants to enjoy what time I have left of them being oblivious, and the other part of me wants to get it over with and confess what I've done. Overall, I feel super crappy, but now there is no way I can repay them at this point. The most money I've made in my life is $18 an hour, and that barely pays for my cost of living, let alone paying back this debt. I have stopped taking from the stash, and I am applying like crazy to get a new job before what little cash I have runs out. I already know I'm a crappy person, but it does feel slightly better to talk about this finally. Thanks for listening. I think this OP should just come clean to their parents because the stress alone could eat away at them. But from the way they tell this story, it seems like their parents might not be the best. If this person would rather pass on instead of telling their parents, there must be something going on there. Either way, I hope things work out for this OP. Am I the jerk? I fought a special needs kid and never got caught. So backstory. I'm a 6'1", 165 14-year-old, and this kid was like a 100-pound 13-year-old. So obviously no fight would be fair. This kid was very high functioning, but a little autistic. But I consider him to not be impaired at all. So this kid, I'll call him Roger, has an inexcusable hate for me. I believe it's because I accidentally tripped him on one of the first few days that we knew each other. He hated my guts beyond imagination because I wouldn't feed into his attempted bullying. He knocked over my drink 2 days in a row. I didn't say anything because, it's probably an accident or he's special needs. The third day in a row, I knew it was no accident. So I bought some double-sided tape and I taped it down. He had hit it as expected and it didn't fall over. He was mad now, so he plotted his revenge. Every time he saw me, he tried to trip me, and he even lied to my friends about me, nearly ruining my relationship with my girlfriend. And I almost got in trouble for harassment, but everyone said he was lying. The worst thing he did was he managed to steal my phone while it was on, ran into the women's bathroom, and was about 2 clicks away from sending hardcore spicy content to my mother. At this point, I had enough, so I contacted the principal and he just told me, and I quote, "He's special needs. We legally cannot do anything to him, even if he did what you claim he did." So I formed a plan. He mentioned wanting to fight me a few times. He thought he could just punch me in the balls. So I shoved him in the hallway to make him ask for a fight. As expected, he said, "Do you want to fight me, you little prick? I swear your balls will regret it." I responded with, "Sure, let's go out to the field so we can settle this right now." I don't think he expected me to say yes, but was too prideful to back down. So now, with no people watching, we squared up, and as expected, I absolutely destroyed him. I pushed him to the ground, kneeled on his chest while scratching his arms with my inhumanely long fingernails. Then picked him up over my head and did a rep with him before dropping him 6 feet onto the grass. I then proceed to step on his chest and tell him that if anyone hears of this, death will be too good for him, and I walked away. I would do it again, but it's nice to get this off my chest. Okay, for full transparency, I totally laughed when he said he literally did a rep with this kid's body. I totally understand that we need to give more attention to or be more understanding of kids with special needs, but it shouldn't come at the expense of other people. I don't condone what this OP did, although funny, it seems like this could have been over with just the shove to the ground. Am I the jerk? I put some of my poo in my friend's food as a prank. We were at his place hanging out and he made himself an instant ramen. I've been wanting to play this prank on him for ages and I finally found the opportunity to do it. I went to the bathroom and took a quick poo and I didn't fully wipe my butt, so there was some residue left. I came back and when his back was turned for a minute, I reached up and dropped it into his ramen cup and stirred it around. He continued eating normally and didn't even notice anything. I was laughing to him so much and trying not to completely crack up as he kept asking me what was so funny. I just lied to him and said it was stuff on my phone. He still has no idea. I've considered telling him because I don't want him to get sick, even though it was a small amount, less than a nickel size. I am worried that he will absolutely hate me even though we play pranks on each other all the time. What does everyone think I should do? Bro, this is absolutely crossing the line in my book. I don't care if you like pranks or not. This is just straight up gross and maybe dangerous. I hope the friend of this OP gets new friends ASAP. Am I the jerk? I nanny for a family with 3 kids and I stole the mom's diary and read it. Normal family with 1 boy and 2 girls. However, the mom was a doctor in the maternity ward and would deliver babies all night and sleep all day. She was kind of detached and unfriendly. She slept all day. One time while she was gone, I found empty tubes of morphine in her drawers. Then I got curious and read her diary. Turns out that the oldest child, a boy, was from a previous boyfriend who was an alcoholic jerk powderhead. She left him and took the baby and started a new life, having 2 children with her new husband. I worked for them for years and they never told me. I don't think the kids know either. They all look the same, so you can never tell. Eventually I developed my own substance habit, stole her morphine tubes and used them in front of the youngest baby, even driving them to school. I still feel bad about it. Bro, what? When I originally read this title, I assumed this was going to be a story about a nanny finding something out about the mother and revealing how she hurts the family. But it turns out that the nanny was the real problem here. Not only was she invading privacy, she was stealing and endangering children. Yeah, I'm not even going to ask the question. This OP is a total jerk. Am I the jerk? I stole my teacher's camera in the 6th grade and recorded cringy videos. Back whenever 6th grade was, I was in orchestra. I was forced to play the double bass. So as a 5', 11-year-old, I was pretty mad. The double bass was taller than I was. My teacher kept a video camera on his desk to record his class concerts and private sessions, where he recorded students to do tests with their instruments. One day, while putting back the heavy instruments, everyone was out of the room. I had turned my bag around on my chest instead of my back, and I looked at his desk that was in the very back of the room. And on his desk was the camera. I grabbed it as soon as I saw it. I bagged it and left, passing my teacher in the hallway. We made eye contact, and all I did was wave, walking past him swiftly. About a week later, he had finally noticed. One day walking into class, he had a picture of it on the board, and people were looking around for it. Suddenly he goes, "I know who took it. If no one brings it back by the next class, I'm contacting the authorities." Now, 11-year-old me was scared out of my mind. The next class, I dropped it by his computer and never told him. What did I record? Crappy Minecraft gameplays. Pointed the camera at the monitor and made the worst quality video ever. But to this day, I've never told anyone. I love that 1, this kid recorded cringy Minecraft videos with the camera, but 2, that he fell for the classic, "I know who did it, and if you don't return, I'm calling the police" trick. Kids are so dumb sometimes. Am I the jerk? I bullied one of my best friends so I wouldn't be bullied. Some background info before I get into it. I've had this friend who I've known and has stuck by my side since we were in kindergarten. Let's call her Trisha. Well, we are well past high school graduation, and still to this day, she's always been there for me and I for her. It still makes me feel kind of crappy because back when we were in high school, we were in this kind of friend group. It was just me and one of my other best friends at the time. The problem is that the other friend of mine was kind of rude. Let's call him Nate. Nate was a bully to say the least. He was always making mean jokes at people's insecurities, but that's just how he was, and if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be friends with him. I liked being friends with him, but I hated when he would joke around about the things I'm insecure about. But if you tried to tell him that this joke wasn't funny, he called you sensitive, and usually anyone else in the group would get on your case as well. Well, Trisha wanted to start hanging out with me and Nate. I wasn't so sure because of how he was, but they were already acquainted, so I hesitantly agreed. Well, he obviously started bullying her about stuff that was out of her control. Her hair, appearance, forehead, etc. He always criticized her hair the most and would mock her when she talked by saying ooga booga. She's black and he's not, so this was kind of racist. I obviously felt bad, but I was glad he was making fun of her and not me, so I would join in on the bullying. I didn't see it as racist or bullying at the time. I was young and just wanted to fit in. Now that I'm older, I feel horrible and I just want to apologize, and she seems to have moved past it and is on her own journey of self-love. We keep in contact and I always make sure we're okay and we'll constantly check in on one another. She's still my best friend to this day, and it makes me feel bad knowing what I did to her. This dude Nate sounded like a total jerk. I feel like the whole "if you don't like my jokes, you're just sensitive" is just an excuse that sensitive dudes use when they can't handle criticism. I don't really hold anything against the OP because the only person's opinion here that matters is the best friends. I think everybody did stupid stuff during their school years just to try to fit in. Am I the jerk? I broke my ankle hiding from the cops after taking an anti-socialism sign down. It's been a few years now, so I'm pretty comfortable telling this. Not sure if this violates Rule 7, it's not specifically about politics. There is a political sign involved, but that's the first 2 lines of the story. Just before the 2020 election, a sign went up near my house. I don't recall everything it said, but the last line was something like "Socialism is slavery, Republicans are our last hope." It was on a vacant lot, so I'm pretty sure the owners of the land didn't approve it. Regardless, I didn't want something like that in my neighborhood, so I did something about it. In the middle of the night, I snuck out of the house, dressed in all black, face mask, gloves, the works. The street was quiet, but if a car drove by, I could duck down into the tall grass. It would be hard to see me even if you were actively looking for me. I got up to the sign and using a knife, I freed it from the pole. It was attached via bungee cords. I took it with me, partially as a prize and also to prevent them from reattaching it. I was halfway home when I saw headlights coming up over the hill. Now, I didn't know if this would be a police car or not. Regardless, I looked suspicious AF, so I jumped into a ditch. Now, it had been raining all day, so the grass was wet and I didn't realize how slippery it was. My foot slipped and I heard a snap sound, and this was the worst pain of my life. Here I was, probably a broken ankle, in a ditch in the middle of the night, dressed in all black after committing a crime. I didn't have my phone on me because I was worried about my location data being used against me, so I had no way to call someone. I left the sign behind as there was no way I could get up holding it. and getting down to pick it up again wasn't happening with my ankle. In extreme pain, I limped the half-mile back home. It took half an hour. Every step was excruciating. I went to the ER that night and found out I broke my fibula near my ankle. I had to have surgery to put plates and pins in. I couldn't walk for 3 months. Yes, it was stupid. I probably deserved it, but I would say it was worth it. They never replaced the sign. This sucks. Although I may not agree with the sign's message, stealing is stealing, and maybe this was a bit of karma. One of my favorite videos on the internet is seeing this package thief break her ankle while running away from stealing packages. So I'm sure there's some Republicans smiling at this story. Am I the jerk? My friend wouldn't shut up about Kia, so I bricked him over the head. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he asked for it. I was chatting with a friend of mine about a month ago, and he told me all about a new car he had just got and how great it is. I had inquired about what car he had got, and he had dropped the bomb that he willingly went out and purchased with his own hard-earned money, a Hyundai Santa Fe. I asked him if he was feeling okay, and he insisted he was. He went on about how great it was and how Hyundai makes such good vehicles. I insistently disagreed with him, but then came the straw that broke the camel's back. He said that his Hyundai was a better vehicle than my 2014 RS6, just because it's older, and went on to argue that Kia Hyundai is better than the entire Volkswagen group. I flew into a frenzy of rage, and I grabbed a brick from the ground. We were near a construction site, and I hit him over the head with it. Doesn't he know that Volkswagen is the third most valuable car company? The only thing Kia is known for is their seatbelts breaking during crashes and their inflated MPG. Volkswagen has the power of Bugatti, Lamborghini, Audi, Volkswagen, Skoda, Ducati, and Porsche. I freaking hate Kia. I'm assuming this is a troll confession, but Jesus. How dare that friend not know all the great things about Volkswagen? Like how they admitted to cheating admission tests in the USA, and how they were founded in 1937 as part of some dictator's plan during the war. That friend deserves to be bricked for disrespecting VW. Am I the jerk? I used to try to kick pigeons every time they got near me. In absolutely no way do I condone what I did. So I, 22 female, was an evil little child. A little backstory, there was this old car wash that me and my grandparents used to love to go to. I liked watching the cars go through the car wash, and then we'd wait for the guy outside to finish detailing the car and make it look pretty. They had this area where you could get popcorn in the place and a sitting area outside to watch. So watching the car wash and the people detailing was always an event for me with popcorn. At around 5 years old, I was always taken to this car wash, and it was the highlight of my days. I'd sit there on a little ledge holding a palm tree, and I'd be able to sit there with my feet on the ground. I was a little short kid. Pigeons were always around because whenever anyone at the car wash would go, they'd get their popcorn and feed it to the pigeons. I used to always throw popcorn at them. It was always entertaining to watch a bunch of fat gray birds swarm others for the food. Fast forward to when I was 8, I had the not so bright idea to put popcorn on my foot and to see if a pigeon would get near. Spoiler, they did. Whenever a pigeon would get close and eat food off my foot, it made me ecstatic. One pigeon managed to get the food, but also nicked me in the ankle. Surprisingly, for such a sweet kid with a goldfish attention span, I had a bit of an anger issue. I started to put the popcorn on my foot and kick at pigeons when they got close. Granted, I wasn't strong enough to do any damage. I did no harm, but I got one in the beak and it flew away and ate from someone else's popcorn. My grandparents were pissed. They took my popcorn away and told me, "You don't ever hurt an animal, even if they hurt you by accident. They just want to eat and they don't get enough food where they live." I remember sobbing, knowing that I hurt animals was bad, and I hurt the thing I loved the most. I was never taken to the car wash again, but my love for animals only grew. I have never hurt a pigeon after that. In fact, I've saved a couple on numerous occasions. But child me was a rotten little thing. Young me makes me never want to have kids. This story made me laugh out loud because I visually see a little happy kid just punting pigeons across a car wash. I think it might have been a little harsh to never take the kid back to the car wash again, especially since they loved it so much. But at least the OP learned a valuable lesson from this whole experience. Karen thinks she knows wine. My husband and I co-own a boutique winery and have 20 years experience. I have been an enthusiastic wino since 1986. We attended a wine tasting fundraiser tonight at a charitable organization my husband is secretary of. This is part of his role as the director of sales with a local convention and visitors bureau. It's a great organization and the event is genuinely a lot of fun. We were seated with 3 other couples and commenced to talking about the evening's featured wines. A lovely woman next to me, we'll call her L, said, "I'll probably embarrass myself, but I know nothing about wine except that the big red ones make me happy." I said, "The most important thing to know about wine is that you should drink what tastes good to you. It's your mouth. If it doesn't like what you're putting in it, try something else." She liked the idea and asked what she should do to learn more about wine and how to figure out what she would like. I gave her a card and invited her to our cellar tasting. In the meantime, go to Aldi's. The Winking Owl has some good examples. They are simple and straightforward. If you like something from there, try some other ones. And if you hate it, well, you're only wasting $4. Learn what you're interested in, then branch out. Karen yells from across the table, "You're wrong! Winking Owl is terrible!" My conversation partner looks stricken. I raised an eyebrow. "You're welcome to your opinion. Drink what you like." Karen was pretty wasted already, and we were only on the first pour. Clearly, she had pre-gamed. She was not having any sass, I guess. "You don't know what you're talking about. I have a wine fridge." Nice dear. I have a wine fridge, a wine cellar with nearly 100 bottles, 37 years of visiting wine regions in Europe and the US, and a whole winery. At least that's what I wanted to say. I said instead, "I'm sure most people here have one. We're talking about how to introduce new people to wine without breaking the bank. It's perfectly fine for learning and just sipping while you watch dumb TV." Karen was livid. "I know about wine. Don't buy wine at Aldi." I proceed to ignore her. Her husband has been talking to mine. He leaned over to talk to me. "So M says you're in technical support?" "I'm in IT." We talk shop a bit and agree that wine is probably what keeps us from killing our end users. Karen starts screaming again. "Don't listen to her. She likes bad wine. I have a wine fridge." I resumed my conversation with L, who wanted to know if Aldi's carried other wines. I started describing a few. Karen decided to scream some more. "No one makes wine from raisins." She then started yelling about how she only drinks low sugar wine from Fitvine. He was clearly mortified. He couldn't have a conversation with anyone about anything without her squawking. He told her it was time to go. "I have a wine fridge." "Screw you, Karen. I'm glad you got dragged out like a petulant child. The rest of us talked about wine and food and no one gave a crap about your wine fridge." Okay, I have to ask, is it just me or does any story that involves wine come off as snobby? The OP sounds like a solid person. I like that she spoke about introducing wine to people, but I can't help but feel like I'd have a terrible time at these events. But if you are someone that does drink wine, do you buy wine at Aldi's? I spend $2,000 to $3,500 a week on substances and it makes me sick to my stomach. I, 26 female, have been using opiates since I was 16. I went to rehab once about a year into my addiction for 11 days and relapsed the moment I got out, and I haven't stopped since. In the beginning, I worked a minimum wage job and only spent $100 at most a week, but as my tolerance got higher, I went back to FSSW, full service X work. Then eventually made an OnlyFans account and started selling custom made content outside of OnlyFans as well. These are my 3 main sources of income. If I was to make a quick guess, I'd say I make roughly 2 to 4K per week from escorting, 500 to 1.5K from OnlyFans, and about 300 to 500 from selling custom content. So even on a really bad week, I'm still making about 2.8K. 6K on a really good week, sometimes even more. So much goddamn money goes through my hands and I have nothing to show for it. I am shackled up in a hotel room with my mom because I have no self-control over my money. As long as the hotel room is paid for and we have food and cigarettes, everything goes straight to substances. I've heard people say that going to rehab after hitting rock bottom is one of the hardest things an addict will experience, but I totally disagree. When you hit rock bottom, you are out of options and you usually have no choice but to go to rehab. Me, on the other hand, I have the money and means to get lit every day, so I have nothing pushing me to get clean. Why would I want to get clean when I can afford to get lit every day? Every addict has these things that counselors in rehab refer to as triggers, something that makes someone want to use. For example, someone driving by a place where they used to meet their dealer can be a trigger. Hanging out with friends that you used to get lit with could be a trigger. As for me, my biggest trigger is having money, and there is nothing I can ever do to avoid this trigger. Every time I have money, I need to spend it. I can't just stop making money, and I don't trust anyone enough to control my finances. Not that I'd allow that anyways. All I ever want to do is get lit, so I need 100% control of my money. I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this cycle. I could have purchased a home for myself myself and my family while also getting everyone brand new cars with all the money I've wasted. And thinking about this makes me physically ill and causes me so much anxiety. So what do I do about it? I get lit so I don't have to deal with it. The cycle continues. The story just makes me sad. I respect ex-workers and this OP is clearly doing great in that field, but it seems like the better she does, the worse her life is gonna get. I hope she can come out of this situation alive and healthy. Just remember kids, if you need help, there are programs and people out there that can do that. You just need to reach out. Am I the jerk? I served toxic food to a lot of people when I was in high school. I really need to get this one off my chest. I think I've done something immoral. When I was in high school, I worked at a local food chain. I initially started working since I was told it was a good idea to get a job. But as I started working, the reality kicked in. I became more and more jaded, realizing that I had basically become a robot and absolutely hating every second of my life at the workplace. Everybody I talked to hated working there, and I didn't know what to do. The idiot I am, absolutely bored out of my mind, started finding ways of amusing myself. One way was by putting ice cubes in the oil fryer, which would make them pop. This kind of activity slowly devolved into putting paper receipts, plastic straws, and even bags into the oil. I liked seeing the effect it would have on the paper and plastic as it would crumple into itself. It didn't pass my mind that it would possibly release toxic chemicals into the oil. While I don't know what kind of toxic materials it would have released, I now realize how dangerous this is. I was caught by my manager who simply said, "Don't do that," who in hindsight should have fired me, scolded me, and completely dumped and refreshed the oil or something. I assume he was too busy. Although I didn't continue doing it after he said that, I left the workplace a few months later as I hated working there so much. I hurt and poisoned people who had no idea, strangers meaningless out of boredom and pure foolishness and stupidity. As far as I know, I could have given dozens of people cancer. This story was one of those that makes you never want to eat at fast food places ever again. But can you also imagine if this was the reason why your fries tasted super bomb that one time and have never tasted great again? Makes you think, am I the jerk? I tried deleting my best friend's history assignment. During my primary school years, I had this one friend who I had been friends with for 6 years. We are still best friends and she doesn't know about this. Now that I'm older, I realize that this was probably the worst thing I ever tried to do to her. Considering that we had never had any friendship problems and she was really nice to me. But she was always better than me and it annoyed the absolute crap out of me. I would get A's, she would get A pluses. I would get student council, she would get school captain. I also knew that she never did any of her homework and always left her assignments until the last second. And she would still get a better mark than me. This always made me furious. We were about to graduate grade 6 and I was determined to get ducks of grade 6 and I thought she had a better chance than me. I also knew that there was a big history assignment that was due and like usual, she left it to the very last minute and hadn't handed it in yet. Since this was primary school, we had those computers that were all shared and it just needed an email and password to get into your account. So if you knew someone's password, you could easily get their email and you know where this is going. I tried so hard to get her password because I desperately wanted to delete her entire history assignment before she had the chance to email it to the teacher. Reading this back, it sounds so much worse than I thought it did in my head. In the end, I didn't get her password and she turned in the assignment on time and passed. Neither of us got ducks and we're both still friends. She hasn't changed a bit and she never does her homework, but neither do I anymore. So I've stopped comparing myself to her and it's heaps better. It gets me wondering what would have happened if I did delete her assignment. She would have failed and I would have felt really guilty about it. I'm glad I didn't and we're still friends today. This sounds like a typical envious story, but it does make me want to ask a question. Does anything good ever come from being envious of people? Let me know in the comment section. Am I the jerk? I spent some kids Robux while at an after-school coding camp. While I was in the 5th grade, I used to take this class after school and on the weekends to learn how to code. Now that I'm in the 9th grade, I realize how messed up this story is. Getting back to the story. After a long day in class, we would have free time to do whatever we wanted on our laptops until our parents came to pick us up. At the time, because this was full of 5th and 6th graders, we obviously played Roblox and Minecraft because it was the only thing our crappy laptops could run. Although we could bring our own laptops, the school provided laptops for the kids who didn't or could not. And because of this, most people would usually sign out of their Roblox accounts before leaving class. Though for this one unlucky kid who I am writing this about, he did not. So after leaving class, I found this kid's laptop and noticed that he had around 3,000 plus Robux. And at the time, games like Meep City were becoming quite popular. So my dumb face decided it would be an amazing idea to spend all this poor kid's money on Meep City. Now 4 or 5 years later, I feel like a complete jerk for doing that. What has the world come to when people are just spending other people's hard-earned Robux? There's a special place in hell for this OP. Am I the jerk? I graduated at the top of my class for stealing smart students' homework. I was definitely smart in school. I was the type of student where I could take an exam and score an A without even spending time studying. But when it came to homework, I would do anything to avoid it. And I figured out a creative way to get myself through all of my tough classes without any critical thinking. The way my high school worked was everyone in school had a Google account that all of your assignments were supposed to be turned in through. The username was the same criteria for everyone. The first 2 letters of your first name, the last 4 letters of your last name, and your graduating year. The password was your school ID number followed by the school district. Once I realized that I could easily figure out my classmates' ID numbers without suspicion, life was a breeze. I would make friends with the smart kid. I would pull out my student ID and make fun of my photo on it. Then I'd ask to see what theirs looked like and sneakily take a photo to remember their number. Other kids would have theirs hooked to their backpack, or they would take it out to buy lunch in the cafeteria and I would take photos of it then. I had about 10 of the most hardworking peers' accounts saved to my computer, and all of their final homework was my rough draft. I jazzed it up with my own personal flair, and I would change it a decent amount to the point where it was nearly impossible for a teacher to notice any similarities between the assignments and often turn it in to get a better grade than they did. I ended up ranking top 15 of my class, was on the National Honor Society, and won awards in a few of my classes. I never told anyone this before, but I'm definitely not proud of it, but I'm not sure that I would have graduated otherwise. Okay, I want to dislike the OP for this post because he stole other people's hard work, but at the same time, this is also on the school for making these accounts so easy to hack into. People until the end of time will always learn how to hack the system. And with college being such a big financial expense and sometimes not even worth it, I got no issue with this person's making their life easier by gaming the system. That has been gaming people forever. Like the old saying goes, give a lazy person a job and they will find the easiest way to make it happen. Am I the jerk? I intentionally harmed my grandmother when I was a child. When I was around 5 or 6, my grandmother started to change. She could never remember my name, but always remembered my mom's. She would be mean and yell at me if I did things that she'd be fine with before that. Never remembered what I liked to eat or what my favorite toys were. She needed help getting everywhere when she could walk perfectly fine. Wouldn't play with me anymore and just generally was a different person. I thought this was a slight against me personally. And I always did terrible things like tell her I was my dad, give her food she didn't like and say it was her favorite food, and wait until the very last minute if she needed help to go to the bathroom, shower, or eating. She died when I was 8. I found out later she had dementia. I made the last few years of her life hell, and I truly believe I contributed to her dying so early. Ouch. I can't hate the OP here because they were a child and probably didn't understand what their grandmother was going through at the time. They already need to live with the fact that they were horrible to their grandmother for the rest of their life. No need for me to crap on them anymore. Am I the jerk? I did snow in front of my 6-year-old brother more than once. When I was 17, I was going through a terrible substance addiction. In the midst of all of this, I was supposed to be watching my then 6-year-old brother. I was so lost and so miserable and just not myself. I feel guilty about it to this day and I don't know if he knows. I don't know if he remembers, nor do I really want to know. One time during the peak of my substance use, some of it had fallen on the floor in a bunch of different pieces. I spent about 10 minutes on the ground picking up small pieces and putting them on a book so I could chop them up and do some white lines. Some of it might have been drywall that I did and not actual snow. I did this all in front of my brother, who I thought was oblivious at the time. I took the snow and it hurt like hell. It was probably 65% actual snow and not worth it. I was so desperate for a line at the time it didn't matter. I could never tell anybody about this, especially not my mother. I don't think she could ever forgive me. Thinking back on it now, I hate myself and I wish I could change it. There was another time I was supposed to be watching him and I stayed up the whole night on snow and I fell asleep when I was supposed to be hanging out and watching him. My mother ended up getting home later that night and freaking out on me. I'm 7 months sober now. I'm still going now, I just need to get this off my chest. Hearing stories like this always make me appreciate the fact that I've never had an interest in drugs growing up or even now. I've seen what they do to people and I never wanted that to be me. I'm glad the OP is sober and I hope they continue to be down the road in the future. Am I the jerk? When I was a kid, I caused a kid to probably break their nose. I was a kid then and my parents had taken me to one of those playgrounds that have tunnels that you can crawl through. But it was only those and nothing else. Anyways, me and some other random kid were chasing another kid around. Then the kid we were chasing tripped and fell on his face, and their nose was bleeding. We stopped and they were crying. The worst part was that they were clearly not having fun and were scared. We had never met before, and I still feel really bad about it, and it was all my fault. I don't expect or deserve to be forgiven. I just wanted to get this off my chest. I'm an awful person. I've read a lot of messed up confessions before, but this is one of those ones that seems like kids being kids situations. I mean, it's totally not cool that the kid broke his nose, but at least the OP didn't trip the kid or anything. Hopefully this was the last time the OP caused another person some trauma. Am I the jerk? I bullied a special needs kid and people said I did the right thing. So this is 6th grade summer going into 7th, and I'm at summer camp. I'm in this cabin with 14 other kids or so. Keep in mind that this is a church camp, so there is worship and activities. It's 5 to 7 days that we spend there, and we go to this activity that is kind of rock climbing and obstacle course. This special kid, I don't know what he had, that's why I'm saying special, got a moon ball from the shop and brought it with him. He kept the moon ball case with him so he could store the moon ball in it. When the activity was over, we were heading to axe throwing and some kid tore his case up. So he started crying and kept blaming me because I was messing with him the whole week. I didn't know who did it and accepted the blame so he would shut up. After I did, he tattled to the counselor of our cabin. So I told the counselor why it was me and he said okay. It started to rain, so we headed back to my cabin, and on the way the kid kept saying, oh no, because his flashlight was getting wet and he dropped it and the batteries came out. He said, oh no, my flashlight is ruined. I started laughing so hard and he cried later. He must have told the counselor about it, because he gave me a pep talk on how kids like him think little things are much more important, and he said that I handled the situation well and I'm not in trouble. Now that I write this, I realize that I was a jerk, and if I could go back, I would say I'm sorry. Bruh, what was up with that counselor? Telling a kid that he handled the situation well after laughing in a special kid's face? It also doesn't help that this was a church camp. Sounds like nothing great ever comes out of these church camp stories. Karen thinks I'm hacking the airplane, says she's a security expert. So I'm a web developer, and in the course of my work, I use the command line, aka terminal, quite a bit. The other day I was catching a flight to see some friends. I wanted to knock out some of my work a bit early, so I decided I'm going to get some work done on my flight. I get through the airport and on the plane. Up until now, things are business as usual. I get on the flight and the plane reaches 30,000 feet, and I throw open my laptop to get some work done. I'm typing away when someone taps on my shoulder, an older lady, who is apparently going to the bathroom. She asks me, excuse me, what are you doing? I'm working. Of course, this isn't a good enough answer for Karen, so she says, no, what is that on your screen? As she points to my terminal window, which leads me to respond, my work, ma'am, can you please let me get back to it? She walks off and I think she's just some curious lady, whatever, so I get back to work. As I'm working, I can hear the lady come up to a flight attendant and start talking. I don't really listen in, but one sentence raises my eyebrows. I think that man over there is hacking the plane. Jesus Christ. And shortly enough, a flight attendant comes up and asks what I'm doing. I politely explain my line of work, the tool I'm currently using, and just some quick facts about what I do. You know, cocktail party stuff. The flight attendant understands and leaves me alone to continue my work. Apparently, she then explains to Karen that I am doing nothing wrong. Karen then proceeds to walk to the back of the airplane and get the attention of the rear flight attendant. While I was not privy to this conversation, Karen apparently claimed that she was a security expert and that she knew certifiably that I was indeed trying to take remote control of the aircraft. The second flight attendant comes, this time much more worried, with Karen in tow, and asks what I am doing. I am trying to explain again. Karen jumps in and tries to explain for me. We argue for a hot second, and then I'm like, screw it, and I ask her, if you are such an expert, please break down for the flight attendant what exactly it is that I'm doing. The conversation ends up going like this. Well, he is clearly hacking the aircraft. Okay, great, but what exactly am I doing? Hacking is pretty vague. If you're such an expert, you should have a good idea of what I'm doing. Well, I'm a manager. I'm not in the weeds like my engineers are. Then let me ask you again, if you're a manager that isn't technical, then how are you able to discern what exactly it is that I'm doing, since you said yourself you don't know the details? Karen is speechless after I say this, which leads the flight attendant to saying, ma'am, will you please go back to your seat? Karen ends up walking back to her seat and the story ends there. Later, when the drink service was going on, the flight attendants forgot to charge me for some drinks. Whoopsie. One thing I will say that always blows my mind when it comes to these Karens is the amount of confidence they have when it comes to their entitlement. They 100% believe they are in the right when they start their tirades, and if you're lucky, every once in a while, they realize that they can be wrong. Which I guess is everyone's favorite part of these stories. Am I the jerk? I stole $50 from an old lady I don't even know. I kind of feel like with the title alone, people already call me a jerk, and that's okay. But I kind of want to give you the whole story of what led me to this situation. I should clarify that I'm not some random person that just goes around looking for some old ladies to steal money from, like some kind of scam artist. This all started when I was hoping to be having a good day that ended up turning into me taking a bunch of L's. I had been working on a project for the last week that I was excited for people to check out, and I showcased it on this day. Now, I know it's not best to get your hopes up for these types of things, but I was at least expecting some type of praise. Sadly, it seems like it fell flat on its face. Any artist can tell you about the feeling of working on something you are proud of and no one noticing it. This feeling ultimately made me contemplate if I should even be in this current field that I'm wanting to work in. While I was thinking about all that, my family told me that workers were going to be coming to our house and that everything needs to be cleaned and put away. Mind you, my family kinda uses our upstairs areas as storage for things that we don't want downstairs, so trying to find a place for everything that just gets thrown at you isn't the easiest thing to do. What makes it worse is that I already had plans to work on other projects this day, so this sudden cleaning fest wasn't my favorite thing. As I'm cleaning, I get a message from a friend telling me that they sent me something, but it is stuck at the post office, and if I don't go get it, they will send it back. Now, I enjoy getting surprise things from friends in the mail, but I hate having to go to the post office to pick stuff up. To anyone asking, why don't you have your friends send this stuff to your house? I use a P.O. box for safety reasons and to make sure stuff doesn't get stolen. So I hop in my car and head to the post office 1 hour before they're closing. I don't think this is going to be a problem because most of the time the post office just leaves a key in my box and I use it to gather whatever packages have been sent to me. But of course, that's not what happened this time around. What I find in my P.O. box is a red stick that just says parcel pickup and some other person's junk mail, which I get all the time and return this to the post office. Now it's only an hour left before closing and the parcel pickup line is almost out the door, but my friend really wants me to get this package. So I decide to wait, and of course, it takes the whole hour, to the point where the guy working the parcel area literally tells us, yo, I'm closing in 15 minutes and I won't be able to get to everyone in line, so you'll have to come back tomorrow. I've already waited an hour, so I decided to stick it out. Literally 2 minutes before closing, the guy helps me out. He looks at my P.O. box number and heads to the back. At this point, I'm a bit relieved because I didn't waste a full hour waiting for this package. Dude comes back and says, hey, I got nothing under that P.O. box number. I'm just like, bruh. I tell him that it shows that I have a package waiting, and then he asks, do you got a tracking number? And I tell him, yeah, I got one. Then the dude hits me with, okay, bring that back tomorrow and I can help you out. And then he just turns around and leaves. I walk out of the post office pretty upset at this point because I just wasted what would end up being 2 hours waiting at the post office and sitting in rush hour traffic. When I finally got home, I say screw this day, and although we still had some cleaning to do, I just went to lay down. As I'm about to fall into what I'm hoping to be a great little nap, I get a phone call from my brother asking me something about our phone bill. After the call, I try to go back to sleep for the next 30 minutes, but nothing happens and I feel like I'm just wasting my day. I try to force myself to work on projects, but I'm not feeling it creatively after the day I've had. So it just results in me cleaning up the house. This is where the little old lady comes into play. Remember how I mentioned that I had junk mail in my P.O. box? Well, I realized that I had brought it home with me. Since the dude at the P.O. box turned his back on me, I didn't have the chance to give him the junk mail. So when I realized this, I just look at it and rip it in half like any other sane person would because it's going to end up in the trash anyways. As I throw it in my trash can, I notice the inside of the mail has layers of green. I instantly realized it wasn't junk mail and it was an actual piece of mail that contained money. $50 to be exact. And at this point, I start thinking all kinds of things. First one being that I'm stupid for just ripping $50 in half, but then I remember seeing a video about being able to get ripped money fixed at the bank. So I wasn't worried about that, but now I'm thinking that I just took money that was intended for someone else. One half of me is saying, you had a pretty bad day, maybe you should just keep it. The other half is like, you don't want to be that person. This money isn't for you. I ended up asking a group chat of friends what I should do, and they all said that I should keep the money. I let them know that I feel bad because what if this is some little old lady's money? Because let's be real, who sends money through the mail anymore? By the way, this money was covered by a piece of crossword puzzle. That's an old school mail trick for you young peeps. My friends say to just do a good deed and call it even. You were going to throw it away anyways, you would have both lost. At this point, I kind of decide that I'm going to keep it, but it's still eating away at me. So I use the power of Google to search up the name and address online, and to my surprise, it brought up a name very quickly and even the person's age. That's when I found out this person was a little old lady in her 80s, if the information I found was true. Now I just feel bad because who steals from little old ladies? What if this money was for her granddaughter or something? But then I asked the counter question, what if this little old lady sucks? What if she was like a racist or something? Should I really care about taking $50 from her at this point? Either way, as I type this on Reddit, the $50 is sitting on my desk, torn in half. So I ask you, am I the jerk? Bro, I can relate to this story a lot. At first, I did think this person was going to be a jerk for stealing from a little old lady, but then after hearing the story, I still don't think it's right, but it's not like they know the person, and they brought up a decent little point at the end. What if that person was terrible? Should they really feel bad? I don't know. I do think if I found out someone was stealing from my grandma, I would be a little upset. But at the same time, people probably shouldn't be sending money through the mail nowadays. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I the jerk for outsmarting my company's lunch break policy? I worked in a very strict healthcare company. Rules have to be so strict regarding privacy, practices, etc. My job wasn't patient-based, more lab work and analysis. This was unpaid, by the way, but I still had to sign a contract. I left work early and took extra time during lunch as I was very little work to do some days as there were delays in training and a lot of shadowing. They even took months to find me a computer to sit at. One day they called me in as a warning for time management issues. They said very adamantly that lunch was 30 minutes and that you can take a 15-minute break before and after. I said I took hour-long lunches instead of my two 15-minute breaks to be more available to people, but that didn't fly. Line up the malicious compliance. I made sure that I would take my 15-minute breaks 20 minutes before my lunch, meaning I would be wandering up the stairs. By the time I got to my desk, logged back in, checked my work, it was time for lunch, and I would be evacuating from the building. I'd also take my 15-minute breaks at peak shadow time if nothing was scheduled, so where normally someone would come up to me and ask if I was okay with training on the fly, I wouldn't be there. And as if it wasn't scheduled, I was doing nothing wrong as long as I stuck to my 15 minutes. I also made sure to screenshot times I logged in and the times I logged out to show that I was complying to their rules. I got called up and told that multiple people tried to find me over many occasions and that I was skeeving off work. And I've gotten worse since the last time I got a warning over my long lunches. I showed her my screenshots and she couldn't say anything, but she was clearly not impressed. Cue malicious compliance because I didn't really like her. I found out one of my office buddies would enter and leave the building more than 3 times than you're supposed to. So I asked not to report him, just curious. He said that he smokes. So I say that you should surely be able to smoke 3 times within your breaks, right? He told me as long as it's not more than 10 minutes and it's not on the grounds, no smoking policy, then it's fine. Oh boy, did he just give me gold. I'm no smoker, but I know my manager would find any way to clap back. I bought cigarettes and the next day pretty much had the whole day off through 10 minutes on and off smoke breaks. I'd mostly hold it in my hands but took pictures for everyone and logged in as a smoke break on my self-made timesheet. The day after, I got called in saying I'm at this point disrespectful. I showed her all my evidence and said that if smokers are allowed out whenever, I guess I'm taking up smoking. She had to get her manager involved, and he asked where this stemmed from as I've been a nuisance recently. I told him that my time management didn't fall in line with the contracts, now it does. I told him honestly that I work hard and I'm actually taking less time during my lunch than I would if I took my 2 breaks. And also, if I'm done with my work and there's no more and I'm not getting paid for it, then I should be able to leave 15 minutes or so to catch the bus, etc. He said there's not much he can do, so I said there's not much I can do. I made sure that I wasn't wasting coworkers' time anymore, and I got on with my job, but during stretches of no work or just periods where I wanted a timeout, I walked out with a cigarette in hand ready to waste my day. I won't be working there again. The more I read malicious compliance stories, the more I realize that I'm similar to a lot of people. I hate stupid rules like this. The mandatory 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch schedule is so dumb. In my opinion, it causes more trouble than it's worth, especially since you have to make sure there's coverage for certain jobs. I like this OP's mindset because I did something similar when I found out at my old job that smokers basically had unlimited breaks. I asked my manager why that was allowed, and they said something along the lines of they can't help but needing a smoke. So I started taking extra breaks to use my phone because I couldn't help but check it every so often. As you might think, management didn't like that too much. Vegan Karen hates that I brought barbecue to a cookout. So a while ago, I offered to pay for a friend's kid's college, which is a whole different story. Today, I'm just gonna focus on the barbecue that she got invited to for being accepted to a first-rate college just a state away. My fiance got the call that we were also invited to get to know the teachers, other students, and board members while enjoying some good weather and food. I asked what they wanted us to bring, and they said anything. It's important that she said anything. So the day arrives, and I pack my car with my grill, 35 pounds of venison, 10 pounds of moose, and 20 pounds of ground beef. Hunting season last year was good to me. We arrive and it's a nice day, blue skies with little white clouds. No booze, but we were here for the students, not to get smashed. I started grilling a burger for my adopted daughter and fiance as my college student goes and mingles. Not 5 minutes into grilling, there is a line of people making orders and chowing down on juicy venison steaks and spicy moose kebabs. That's when Karen walks in, and oh boy, I thought the overtop vegan was just a meme. What the hell is this? This is a grill, ma'am. Would you like something? Why did you bring blood food into our house? I was told that I could. Over the phone, my fiance told me that this was a potluck style. I had a bunch of meat left over from Easter, so I thought, hey, good time to use it. Well, you can't bring it. It's already been brought, ma'am. Well, this is my house and I say you can't. I thought this was the dean's house. It is. I'm his wife. The dean, who was right behind me, grabs his second burger and says, "No, you're not. Please quiet down, Miss Blah Blah. We've been more than accommodating for you and your son." I could see the wheels turning in her head on how to win this. I put my knee up to the table with the cooked meat, and sure enough, she goes for it. My tragic misreading of intent will haunt me to the day I die. She didn't push the table. She cleared it, pushing all the readied food to the ground. I'm about to forget all the anger management that I've learned, and I'm going to say something really stupid. But my fiance intervenes and grabs a kebab and says, "It's still good, better than any tofu anyway." I was able to calm down and pick up everything that had fell, while the dean and the board had a screaming match with Karen that I couldn't hear. Bruh. If I was the son of this lady, I would have changed schools because that is super embarrassing. Can you imagine going to school now knowing that you're the kid of the crazy vegan mom that ruins parties? I'm all for people being meat-free, but don't go around preaching your beliefs on other people.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.